Chapter 9:23. Although it was meaningless to talk about the base price, however, 1,000,000 low-grade spiritual stones was not a small number. There were not many people in the hall who were qualified to compete for it. 5,000,000! Feng Mingbo thought it was too troublesome, so he directly raised the price from 1,000,000 to 5,000,000. This was a rich man. He did not care about money at all. Many people who were about to bid shut their mouths and cursed Feng Mingbo in their hearts. 6,000,000! Feng Qingyan said lightly. He had come to the auction house for the Golden Crow sword. After all, experts like to solve difficult problems. The Golden Crow sword was only an immortal grade treasure, yet no one could use it. This was something that a yin-yang realm expert like him couldn't understand. It was precisely because of this that he specially came here. He planned to take it back and study it properly. Perhaps he would gain something from it. 7,000,000! It was still Feng Mingbo who bid. Feng Mingbo, are you a child? You want whatever I want. Feng Qingyan smiled and asked, I won't let you get what you want. What can you do to me? Then I don't want it. Feng Qingyan bought the Golden Crow sword just to study it. It did not have much practical value. He did not want to lose too much money because of Feng Mingbo. The two of them stopped bidding, and the scene suddenly became cold and cheerless. This was something that Yunya had not expected. After all, if the Golden Crow sword could not be used, it was no different from a piece of trash to many people. Martial artists were not fools. It was already 7,000,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Who would be willing to lose? 7,100,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Just when Yunya thought that the sword was going to be sold, a voice sounded. She turned her head and found that it was Feng Yanran. Girl, are you crazy? Didn't you only have 5,000,000 low-grade spiritual stones? How did you have the money to bid for this? Feng Qingyan also looked at Feng Yanran with a puzzled expression and asked, It's not me. Feng Yanran shook her head. She did not know how to explain. She did not plan to bid for the sword just now. However, she heard Ling Zhao's secret sound transmission, asking her to bid for the sword. Since it wasn't her money, she naturally didn't care. Ling Zhao could not bid on his own. After all, he was now playing the role of Mr. Ghost Mask. If he were to bid for the sword, it would appear in front of everyone in the future. Even a fool would know that Grimace was related to Ling Zhao. 7. 1,000,000 low-grade spirit stones. Is there anyone else willing to bid? Yunya looked around and felt a little helpless. No one was willing to continue to compete with Feng Yanran for this immortal grade artifact. Only Heaven Realm martial artists were interested in immortal grade artifacts. Once they reached the Grotto Heaven Realm, they would pursue divine grade artifacts. Although it was true that the Golden Crow sword could automatically evolve, who would have the time to search for the 12 sacred flames? Even if they had the time, they might not be able to find them. This thing only sounded like a beautiful scam. All right, congratulations to Miss Feng Yanran for the Golden Crow sword. Yunya helplessly announced the result. Seeing this, Ling Zhao couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. The price of the Golden Crow sword wasn't high. It could even be said to be too low. At least that was the case for him, because this sword wasn't as simple as it looked on the surface. What Yunya said wasn't comprehensive. Although Ling Zhao hadn't figured out the Golden Crow sword yet, he would know after he got it and carefully studied it. Feng Yanran took the Golden Crow sword and followed Feng Qingyan back to Qingshu College. Of course, the 1,000,000 low-grade spirit stones needed to be paid for the Golden Crow sword was recorded in the account. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to buy things on credit here, and Yunya wouldn't either. From this, it could be seen that Yunya's relationship with the Crown Prince, Feng Yinshan, was not ordinary. Ling Zhao walked out of the VIP room and went to the appraisal hall. He was going to collect his money and buy herbs to refine the Heaven's Spirit Elixir before going back to cultivate in seclusion. He only waited for a moment in the appraisal hall before Yunya returned with a smile. Senior, here are 20 million low-grade spirit stones. Please keep them well. Yunya directly handed her storage ring to Ling Xiao. Your auction house is really generous. Don't you need to pay the commission? Ling Xiao asked curiously. This time the commission will be waived. In addition, please keep this red jade waste token. Our Heavenly Dragon Auction House not only has branches in the Divine Phoenix Continent, but also in the 5 Immortal Island, White Tiger Continent, and even other continents. It can be said that we have branches in the entire mystic world. As long as you have this red jade waste token, the commission for the items you auction in our Heavenly Dragon Auction House can be reduced from 10% to 1%. In addition, if you want to bid for something, it will be calculated according to the price of a martial artist. Yunya said with a smile, Won't you be at a disadvantage like this? Although Ling Xiao was very happy, he also knew that this red jade waste token was not so easy to get. Senior, you don't have to be suspicious. The reason why I gave you this waste token is because I want you to take care of our business in the future. If you have any newly refined elixirs, you can bring them to our Heavenly Dragon Auction House for auction. That's all. Yunya said with a smile. That's fine. Ling Xiao took the red jade waste token and put it in his storage ring. It would be a waste not to take such a benefit. Anyway, the other party's request was not high. If he wanted to make money in the future, he would probably have to auction elixirs. The cooperation with the Heavenly Dragon Auction House could continue. Yunya, this woman, was more unfathomable than he had imagined. In the beginning, Ling Xiao thought that this woman was a very independent princess of the sacred dynasty. Later, when he met her here, he felt that this woman was a master of tricks. Just now, when he heard Yunya say that the Heavenly Dragon Auction House had branches in the entire mystic world, he suddenly understood. This Yunya, he was afraid that she was not as simple as she looked. Was this woman's identity just a princess of the sacred dynasty? What kind of master was she? Thinking of this, he took a few more glances at Yunya, but the analytical ability of the mountain and river martial spirit could not see through this woman. Take these 1 million low-grade spirit stones. It's the money for the Golden Crow sword. Since he could not see through it, Ling Xiao was too lazy to guess. Anyway, he was now in a cooperative relationship with this woman, not an enemy. There was no need to make things so complicated. So that's how it is. Miss Feng Yanran is auctioning the Golden Crow sword for Senior? Yunya suddenly realized. Wrong. That is a gift I gave to Ling Xiao. I also hope that you will not leak this matter. Otherwise, our cooperation will be ruined. Ling Xiao said lightly. Senior, don't worry, I definitely won't. Yunya could feel that the ghoul-masked man trusted her more at this time. Otherwise, he would not tell her this matter. Therefore, she must repay this trust, and naturally did not dare to violate the agreement. Chapter 924. I'm done here. I'll take my leave now. Ling Xiao didn't want to stay here for too long. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if Yunya found out his true identity. I'll send you off. Yunya hurriedly followed him. She was now sure that this devil-masked man was a super alchemist. She didn't know how strong he was, but he was definitely much stronger than Sun Shang. Ling Xiao didn't stop her from following him. He didn't use his body technique until he reached the door and instantly disappeared in the alley. Boss, this person doesn't sound old. Judging from his physique, he doesn't look like an alchemist. Are you sure you didn't see wrongly? The person who received Ling Xiao before walked out and asked doubtfully, Your eyesight is still too bad. If I'm not wrong, he should be disguised. He doesn't look like this. Yunya shook her head and said, Judging whether a person is an alchemist or not is not based on appearance, but the strength of his soul power. This person is definitely stronger than Sun Shang. Boss, this heavenly spirit pill is a good thing. Haven't you thought of refining it yourself? With your ability, it shouldn't be difficult, right? The person said again. Hearing this, Yunya's face instantly became cold. Slap yourself. Slap. That person actually slapped himself in the face. Yunya then said, "You have to understand that an alchemist can't be offended easily, not to mention an alchemist that we don't know the depth of. If we annoy him, we won't be able to bear the consequences. Don't forget that trash like Sunshine can make an auction house that isn't inferior to ours completely disappear from the Tianlong continent, let alone that senior. I know I'm wrong, but what if that senior is willing to sell the prescription of the heavenly spirit pill? It's useless. I've already analyzed it carefully. Not only does this heavenly spirit pill add a special kind of medicinal ingredient, but it also uses a special flame to refine it." Yunya sighed and said, "I might be able to add that medicinal ingredient, but I don't have the ability to have that special flame." "What, even your highness can't?" "No." Yunya shook her head and said, "So now you understand why I tried so hard to please him, right? That kind of person definitely cannot be offended, and as long as we can become friends, our heavenly dragon auction house will be even stronger than it is now." This subordinate understands. After returning to Qingshu College, Ling Xiao went straight to his residence. This was a single room. In Qingshu College, everyone had their own residence, which was more conducive for martial artists to practice without affecting each other. After all, every martial artist had their own little secrets. If they all stayed together, it would be a very troublesome matter. Ling Xiao took out some of the herbs he had just bought from the storage ring. Just as he was about to refine a new heavenly god's pill, he suddenly noticed a figure flashing by outside the window. "Who?" "Follow me, there's good news." Ling Xiao heard the voice clearly. It was the stranger he had met at the auction house. It was that person who spent 20 million low-grade spirit stones to buy the low-grade heavenly spirit divine pill that he refined. After hesitating for a moment, he put the herbs back into the storage ring, opened the door, and chased after the stranger. A person who could break into Qingshu College was definitely not a weakling. It would be dangerous if he chased after the stranger. However, Ling Xiao felt that the stranger had no ill intentions towards him, so he was willing to believe in his speculation. Ling Xiao chased after the stranger all the way, but he could only keep up with the stranger from afar with his movement technique. It was impossible for him to close the distance. Ling Xiao was very surprised. After comprehending the light, profound meaning, he was so fast that even a half-step yin-yang realm martial artist might not be able to shake him off. However, the stranger could definitely do it. The only reason he did not shake him off was that the stranger had shown mercy. The stranger did not stop until they were outside of Qingshu College. He laughed and said, "Benefactor, your speed is really amazing." "General." Ling Xiao was shocked when he took a closer look. The stranger was none other than Jining. Wasn't Jining in Northern Desert City? Why was he back in the Imperial City? This matter was actually not complicated at all. After learning about Ling Xiao's true identity from Hongqi, Jining could not stay put at all. He always felt that someone would harm Ling Xiao, so he disguised himself and came to the Imperial City to secretly protect Ling Xiao. When he passed by the Heavenly Dragon Auction House, he heard that there were heavenly spirit elixirs being auctioned inside. He immediately went in and bought 100 heavenly spirit elixirs with his savings over the years. However, Ling Xiao did not know about this yet. "If you don't mind, Benefactor, can we call each other by name?" Jining said with a smile, "Brother Ling Xiao." "Big brother Jining." "Ha ha ha, good, good." Jining suddenly laughed heartily. "I'm here to give you something good. There's nothing else." As he spoke, he immediately took out the gourd that contained the heavenly spirit elixirs from his storage ring. Seeing this familiar gourd, Ling Xiao smiled bitterly in his heart at first. After all this trouble, he actually cheated Jining. However, he was a little touched. Jining actually spent so many low-grade spiritual stones to buy the heavenly spirit elixirs for him. "Big brother, what's this?" he asked curiously. "Low-grade heavenly spirit elixirs. The effect is twice as good as the low-grade heavenly spirit elixirs. Jining said with a smile. No, this gift is too valuable. I don't dare to accept it without doing anything. Ling Xiao hurriedly shook his head. Yes, this thing is very expensive. I spent 20 million low-grade spiritual stones to buy it. If Brother Ling doesn't want it, I'll destroy it. Ji Ning's expression was very serious. Big brother, what are you doing? Ling Xiao's heart was full of confusion. If it was to repay a debt of gratitude, then wasn't Ji Ning's actions a bit too much? Brother Ling, there's no need for you to ask too much. When you're a little stronger, I'll tell you about your past. In short, for you, I, Jining, am willing to lay down my life and spill my blood no matter what. Jining said very seriously. Ling Xiao sighed. He didn't understand why Jining said this, but he accepted this kindness. At most, he would find a chance to repay him in the future. All right, I'll accept this. But big brother, although you're disguised in the imperial city and won't be discovered for now, once the imperial family finds out, I'm afraid you'll be in danger. Ling Xiao said sincerely, You'd better return to the northern desert city as soon as possible. I won't be in danger. You still say you won't be in danger? Are you sure you can defeat that blood skeleton in a month? Jining said anxiously, why are you so impulsive? What can you change in a month? At least delay it for more than a year. Chapter 9:25. Haha, big brother, you don't have to worry. After a month, I will make those who look down on me shut their mouths. As for that blood skull, he will definitely die. This is the price he has to pay for trying to kill me and harm my friends. Ling Xiao chuckled. When he said these words, it was as if he was talking about something as ordinary as eating. There was not the slightest bit of nervousness or pressure. After staring at Ling Xiao for a while, Jining smiled bitterly and said, too similar. This character is simply carved from the same mold. Fine, since that is the case, I will listen to you and return to the northern desert city. I will wait for your good news. Big brother, you are right to think so. Ling Xiao did not know who Jining was referring to and did not ask. If the other party wanted to say something, he would naturally say it. If the other party did not want to say it, it would be pointless to ask. Okay, you go back and cultivate well. Big brother, I will leave first. Jining did not waste any more time. Since he had decided on something, he immediately went to do it. By the way, the flame deity should be your enemy. He dared to follow me just now. I knocked him out. Do you want to kill him? Just as he was about to leave, Jining suddenly turned his head and added, His life is mine. I will take it myself. Ling Xiao smiled and said, From the heavenly dragon continent to the divine phoenix continent, Ling Xiao had not forgotten that the flame deity had repeatedly tried to take his life. He also did not forget that he had promised Grandmaster Bai Yun that he would help him retrieve the wisdom bone. These things could only be done by him personally. There was no point in others helping him. Okay, then big brother, I will leave first. Jining broke through the sky and left. Looking at his back, Ling Xiao took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Great General, although I don't know why you are treating me like this, I can feel your good intentions. Don't worry, in a month, I will make that blood skull pay the price. I want to live and find out about my origins. When he returned to his residence, Ling Xiao glanced in a certain direction and smiled. He didn't say anything and continued to speed up. This kid's soul force is so sharp. You actually discovered me? The one hiding in the dark was Feng Qingyan. He was the first to notice that someone had broken into Qingshu College, so he followed them all the way here. It was a pity that he couldn't see clearly who was meeting with Ling Xiao. The other party seemed to have used a special concealment technique to block out sound and images. The person who could use such a technique had to be at least in the Yin-Yang realm. Who could it be? Feng Qingyan rubbed his temples. After a long time, he smiled and muttered to himself, Why do you have to be so thorough? It's definitely a blessing for Qingshu College that Ling Xiao joins Qingshu College. I'll just watch quietly. Shadow all. In the dense forest of Qingshu College, a loud shout rang out. However, the voice was there, but the person was nowhere to be seen. If there were outsiders present, they would probably think that they had seen a ghost. At a certain moment, a big tree that required 3 people to wrap their arms around was suddenly bombarded by something, and a big hole appeared in it. There was still no one in sight, but the spiderweb-like cracks continued to spread on the tree. The circular hole in the center was actually covered with a layer of ice. Crack! After a while, the big tree could no longer support its huge body and finally fell to the ground, stirring up a cloud of smoke and dust. Only then did a figure appear in the vicinity. He was dressed in black and had long hair. He still looked the same, but his body was taller and stronger. Seeing the effect of the shadow all, Ling Xiao's face showed an excited smile. It had only been 3 days since he came back from the auction house. He had used the heavenly spirit elixir to raise his cultivation to the late stage of one-line sky. This was nothing. More importantly, he had comprehended the second step of the shadow profound meaning and obtained the shadow all, a unique secret technique. The shadow all and the red sun all looked very similar. The power was a little weaker, but when it was released, it could be completely undetectable by the opponent. If Ling Xiao chose to be an assassin with the concealment effect of the shadow armor, many warriors in this world would be unlucky. Whether it was the red sun all or the shadow all, the terrifying power that erupted seemed to be more powerful than the attack of a warrior at the peak of 3 talents heaven. If Ling Xiao's cultivation was raised to the Yin-Yang heaven realm, what would the situation be like? He was really looking forward to it. When he returned to Qingshu College, Hai Miankeo and the others had already gone to the Heavenly Essence Pagoda to cultivate. Ling Xiao was also preparing to go to the Heavenly Essence Pagoda after a short rest. The reason why he came out this time was because he had comprehended the shadow all and wanted to test it out. If he was going to cultivate in seclusion, it would be a month later. However, when he was about to leave, Feng Yanran mysteriously found him. Ling Xiao, there's something I don't know if I should tell you. She seemed to be a little hesitant. Perhaps this was not a good thing for Ling Xiao. Just say it. Ling Xiao smiled. Feng Yanran gritted her teeth and said, Well, I'll tell you. In this imperial city, in addition to the Heavenly Dragon auction house that mainly sells elixirs and weapons, there is also a Divine Phoenix auction house that mainly sells slaves and rare birds and beasts. This auction house belongs to the Phoenix Academy. Well, continue. Ling Xiao knew that Feng Yanran was definitely not finished. I just received news that the True Devil Empire sent a group of slave warriors over. These people were all soldiers of the Sacred Dynasty. After the fall of the Sacred Dynasty, they insisted on fighting the True Devil Empire. However, in the end, they were outnumbered and captured. Feng Yanran continued. This group originally had more than 1,000 people, but hundreds of them died in the battle. Later, on the way here, many of them died of illness. Now, there are only about 100 people left. What do you think? I'm a human, and I'm also a member of the Sacred Dynasty. They're all loyal soldiers who protect their country, and they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the people. What do you think I'll do if I hear this? Ling Xiao asked. I knew you would definitely want to meddle in this matter, so I was hesitating whether to tell you or not. Let me remind you, that auction house belongs to the Phoenix Academy. You have already offended the people of the Phoenix Academy many times, so you have to be careful. Feng Yanran smiled bitterly. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, Although I'm just a martial artist, what I respect the most is these soldiers who shed their blood on the battlefield. They persevered in the battle when the Sacred Dynasty's royal family was basically destroyed, and they were unwilling to surrender. Just this backbone alone is worth saving. Of course, you can rest assured that I'm going to buy them with money, not rob them. Do you still have money? Feng Yanran asked. Yes, this was a problem. Ling Xiao had previously obtained 20 million low-grade spirit stones to buy the golden crow, sword, and medicinal herbs. Now he was short of money again. Thinking of this, he looked at Feng Yanran and asked, when I was cultivating in the forest outside Qingshu College, an ignorant beast broke in and was captured by me. I originally planned to train it into a mount. Can I take it to the auction house? Chapter 9:26. As he spoke, Ling Xiao touched the beast ring and released a strange beast that looked like ice crystals. This is a dark ice lion, and it's a dark ice lion at the pinnacle of the 3 talents realm. How did you catch it? Feng Yanran asked in surprise when she saw the obedient, puppy-like beast squatting near Ling Xiao. You don't have to worry about that. Just tell me how much it can be sold for. Ling Xiao asked. I can't say for sure, but it's worth at least 10 million low-grade spirit stones. If you want to buy slaves, it should be more than enough. Feng Yanran thought for a while. Since that's the case, I'll go. It's better if you don't follow me. After all, you're from the Ice Phoenix clan. If we get too close, I'm afraid it'll be disadvantageous to the crown prince, Feng Yinshan. After Ling Xiao finished speaking, he put the dark ice lion back into the beast ring and flew in the direction of the Divine Phoenix auction house. Feng Yanran wanted to chase after him, but she gave up in the end. Uncle Qingyan, can you secretly protect him for me? She looked back and saw Feng Qingyan walking out from the shadows. There's no need for that. This kid is stronger than you think. I already know about his identity. Since he's the son of our Ice Phoenix clan's benefactor, we should treat him better. But don't go overboard. Otherwise, spoiling him won't be able to nurture a talent. That's harming him. Feng Qingyan shook his head. Oh, I know. Feng Yanran looked in the direction Ling Xiao left and shook her head helplessly. She finally chose to give up on following him. You'd better hurry up and cultivate in the Heavenly Essence Treasure Pagoda. Otherwise, your cultivation will be surpassed by that kid. Feng Qingyan smiled and said, if you want to stay by his side, the difference in strength can't be too big. Otherwise, you'll only be a burden. I know. Feng Yanran naturally understood this, so she quickly set off for the Heavenly Essence Treasure Pagoda. Even if she couldn't maintain the advantage in cultivation over Ling Xiao, the difference couldn't be too big. The Divine Phoenix auction house was a place filled with resentment and dark aura. Standing outside, you could even hear the screams of the creatures in the cages. It was a wail of grief, anger, and unwillingness. Some of the slaves here used to be generals who guarded a region. Some were fearsome pirates, and some were famous, talented martial artists. There were also terrifying prisoners who had been imprisoned. Of course, most of them were ordinary humans. Because humans had the highest intelligence among all the races, they could learn the most skills. She could cook, wash clothes, clean, and wait on people. Therefore, human slaves were also the most popular here, and the price was not too expensive. Ling Xiao was very unhappy about this. He was also a human, and seeing his own kind locked up in a cage and being pointed at by others made him feel terrible. However, he also knew that he could not be impulsive. There were many experts here, and they were basically all Heaven Realm martial artists. There were Sky of 2 Elements Realm, Sky of 3 Talents Realm, Sky of 5 Elements Realm, Sky of 6 Arts Realm, and Sky of 7 Stars Realm experts. These people had restrained their auras and looked no different from ordinary people. However, when they really unleashed their strength, it was truly terrifying. Although they would restrain themselves a little in the Imperial City and would not dare to kill wantonly, squashing a few ants to death would not be too much of a problem. Taking a deep breath, Ling Xiao walked into the legendary Divine Phoenix auction house. At the entrance, there were similarly guards standing there. Ling Xiao ignored them and walked straight in. Just as he entered, someone came forward to welcome him. Esteemed guest, may I ask what service you require? Her attitude was not bad, which left a good impression on Ling Xiao. I want to auction this. Ling Xiao took out the dark ice lion from the beast ring and placed it in front of that woman. It's actually the dark ice lion. Esteemed guest, please follow me. Clearly, This woman was only in charge of welcoming guests. The one who was truly in charge of appraising treasures and discussing transactions was not her. The woman led Ling Xiao to the appraisal hall. This place was somewhat similar to the Heavenly Dragon Auction House's appraisal hall. It was just that inside were all some slaves and beasts. It was completely different from the Heavenly Dragon Auction House's auction items. Quickly look, a dark ice lion at the pinnacle of the Tri-Talent Heaven realm. Is this person going to auction it? If it's an auction, we have to make good use of the opportunity. Dark ice lions are rare in the first place, let alone a dark ice lion at the pinnacle of the Tri-Talent Heaven realm. This is even more powerful than martial artists of the same realm. If we obtain it, not only will it be a good helper, it will also be a good mount. Go, go, go. Go to the auction hall and wait. There will definitely be an auction later. In the crowd, many people's eyes lit up when they saw the dark ice lion. To them, this dark ice lion could be considered a supreme treasure. Regardless of whether it was for their own use or as a gift, it was very good. Esteemed guest, this is our appraisal hall. Please follow me in. That young woman led Ling Xiao into the appraisal hall. Inside was as he expected. It was really different from the Heavenly Dragon Auction House. He could even hear the sound of crying coming from inside. It turned out to be an 11 or 12-year-old human girl. She looked as cute as carved jade. Only the 2 lines of clear tears made people feel pity for her. Beast! Ling Xiao couldn't help but secretly curse. Such a young child wanted to be sold. This kind of behavior really made people's hair stand on end. He finally realized how low the status of humans in the divine Phoenix continent was. Unless you had strength, you were no different from animals. They could be bought and sold wantonly and even slaughtered. No, I promised Feng Yanran that I wouldn't cause trouble. He took a deep breath and turned his head to look at the old man who was in charge of receiving him. Esteemed guest, this is Old Bai. You can chat first. I'll take my leave. After the young woman sent Ling Xiao off, she turned and left. You are Ling Xiao. Old Bai looked at Ling Xiao with a smile and asked, That's right. Ling Xiao wasn't wearing a mask at this time, so it was normal for others to recognize him. After all, many people knew that he had made a 1-month agreement with the Blood Skull. I didn't expect you to have the time to stroll around the auction house. Aren't you afraid of dying at the hands of the Blood Skull in a month? Old Bai's eyes were filled with mockery. Ling Xiao said indifferently, This has nothing to do with you. Can my profound ice lion be auctioned here? He didn't want to argue with this person. This auction house belonged to the Phoenix Academy. It was certain that the other party was on the Blood Skull's side. There was no point in arguing with him. Old Bai frowned slightly. He was obviously a little angry. However, business was business, so he didn't explode. He only asked indifferently, Esteemed guest, do you have any special requirements for the auction? What are your rules? Ling Xiao asked back. The commission is 20%, and the auction price is spirit stones. Old Bai replied, Isn't it 10%? Ling Xiao asked doubtfully. Chapter 9:27. Hee, young man, this old man isn't targeting you. Our Divine Phoenix Auction House has another rule, which is that if a human wants to auction something, the commission will be doubled. If a human wants to bid for something, the price will also be doubled. Old Bai said with a smile, Bastard. Ling Xiao was furious, but in the end he still held it in. Who told the humans to destroy the sacred dynasty? Although the sacred dynasty was bad, when the sacred dynasty was strong, these foreign races didn't dare to treat humans like this. Now that the sacred dynasty was basically destroyed, humans became an inferior species in the divine Phoenix continent. Unless you had enough strength, others wouldn't take you seriously. This was the reality. If you wanted to change, you had to become stronger, or you had to rebuild a powerful human empire and make these foreign races bow down to you. Becoming stronger might seem easier, but it could only change one person's fate. Building a powerful human empire was indeed difficult, but it could change the fate of the entire human race. Ling Xiao might not be so great, but he hoped that he could work hard in that direction. He didn't want to see his own race being treated as slaves and wantonly humiliated. Taking a deep breath, he nodded and said, "Okay, we'll do as you say. It's good that you agree. Come and sign the contract." Old by Let Ling Xiao put his thumbprint on a contract that had been drafted long ago. "Okay, next you can go to the auction hall and wait. If you see something you like, you can bid for it. After the auction of the profound ice lion ends, you can take the contract and come back to receive your spirit stones." Old Bai smiled as he put away the contract. The two most important rules in the contract were that the Divine Phoenix Auction House would set the auction price, and after the auction ended, they would receive a commission of 20%. Ling Xiao wasn't afraid that the other party would deliberately lower the price. After all, the higher the auction price, the more the Divine Phoenix Auction House would earn. This auction house wouldn't be so stupid as to obstruct his path to wealth. After putting away the contract, Ling Xiao was led to the auction hall by a shop assistant. "Esteemed guest, our auction house recently received a batch of good goods. Among them are humans from the heavenly dragon continent. You should be interested." This shop assistant wasn't trying to provoke Ling Xiao on purpose. It was just that many of the humans living in the Divine Phoenix continent had long since become the lackeys of the various countries on the Divine Phoenix continent. They hated humans, and the degree to which they looked down on humans was even more excessive than the races on the Divine Phoenix continent. These people felt that the human blood flowing in their bodies was lowly and shameful. They wanted to humiliate humans to show that they were different from humans. The waiter probably thought that Ling Xiao was that kind of person. Ling Xiao did not say anything. He did want to buy humans, but his purpose was naturally different. If he wanted to establish a human empire, he couldn't lack helpers. Slaves were probably the most loyal helpers. "Esteemed guest, you can't go there." Ling Xiao was about to head to the VIP room on the second floor when he was stopped by the waiter. "Why can't I go?" Ling Xiao asked with a frown. "That's the VIP room. Humans are not allowed to enter, no matter who you are." The shop assistant shook his head. "What if I insist on going?" Ling Xiao's face revealed an ice-cold expression. Not only was the commission almost doubled, but he wasn't even allowed to enter the VIP area. This made him very unhappy. "If you insist on going, then you're just asking for trouble. The people sitting there are all nobles of the Divine Phoenix Empire. This little one doesn't dare to accompany you up." The shop assistant said, truthfully, "Then you can wait here. I'll go up." Ling Xiao thought that he was just going to sit in the VIP area. As long as he didn't provoke others, there shouldn't be any problems. Of course, more importantly, the people in the VIP area could get a 50% discount when bidding. This way, he could save a lot of spirit stones. He was a very realistic person. The other party charged him double, and he only saved 50%. This wasn't too much, right? While thinking, Ling Xiao walked towards the VIP area. Just as he reached the exit of the stairs, he was stopped by two big guys. The shop assistant sneered, "You idiotic human, lowly human. You want to go to the VIP area? What if you disturb our esteemed guest?" When he was thinking about this, he actually didn't think that he was also a human and a slave that was once sold here. This guy was human on the surface, but his heart was completely twisted. "This is not a place you should be, scram." One of the burly men reached out and pushed Ling Xiao. Others had already made a move. What should Ling Xiao do? Crack! Ah! The strong man didn't push Ling Xiao, but his wrist was directly broken by Ling Xiao. "This is just a small punishment. If you dare to make a move again, I'll kill you." A terrifying killing intent rushed into the two strong men's bodies, causing them to tremble. After that, they actually obediently opened up a path, allowing Ling Xiao to enter. "Oh my God, what kind of person did I provoke?" The shop assistant's sneer instantly stiffened, and then he directly knelt on the ground. People like this were really pitiful and hateful people. They were clearly slaves and had a miserable life, but they wanted to add this kind of pain to others. Ling Xiao, who walked to the VIP area, found that all the eyes inside were looking at him. These people's eyes showed disgust, as if they had seen a person with the plague, and they were especially disgusted. Ling Xiao ignored them. Instead, he found an empty seat and sat down. He found that, in fact, there were actually no humans in this VIP area. It was just that the humans here were very miserable. One of the human experts, whose cultivation was estimated to have reached the 9th firmament of the celestial realm, but his neck was tied with a rein, and he was being sat on like a mount. This person was tall, and there were array seals on his hands and forehead. Most of his cultivation should have been sealed, so there was no way to resist. His eyes were a bit cold, and he just glanced at Ling Xiao indifferently without saying anything. Judging from the armor he was wearing, this person should have been a general of the sacred dynasty. "What are you looking at, lowly and dirty human? Scram to the side." The one sitting on this human slave should be a noble descendant of the great rock clan. He looked at Ling Xiao with cold disgust and shouted sternly. Ling Xiao frowned slightly, but did not say anything. He did not want to cause trouble, especially at the auction house. After all, his things were going to be auctioned, and he also wanted to buy those slaves from the Heavenly Dragon continent, so he did not want to make a big deal out of it. "Bastard, did you hear what I said? I told you to scram, don't sit next to me." The voice became louder, and the other party did not have the so-called gentlemanly demeanor of a noble at all. It was like a combination of a shrew and a thug on the street. Ling Xiao stood up, looked at the young man with a smile, and said, "Bastard, who are you talking about?" "Bastard, I'm talking about you." "Oh, it's the bastard talking about me. How strange. I've never seen someone who cheapens himself like this." Ling Xiao smiled slightly. Chapter 928. F***CK. You're cursing me in a roundabout way. That young man finally came back to his senses. He suddenly jumped up and loudly cursed. "I'm not cursing you. You're the one who's insulting yourself. Didn't your mother teach you how to behave?" Ling Xiao was very disappointed. In the entire Divine Phoenix Empire's imperial city, there weren't many truly humble nobles he had met. Most of them were arrogant, conceited, and unbearably vulgar fellows. "Ha ha ha! Yen Peng, you brat, actually got played by a lowly human. If you don't do something, I'm afraid you'll become a laughingstock." How would he dare? That brat is very famous now. He dared to challenge Bloodskull, so Yen Peng must be scared. In the VIP area, someone deliberately instigated that noble young master. "Scared my ass," Yen Peng loudly cursed. "Don't forget, a while ago, there was also a human practitioner who acted pretentiously and meddled in other people's business." In the end, this young master dug out his eyes, cut the tendons in his arms and legs, and turned him into a living human specimen. Now, it's still hanging in the auction house. "That's right. Then do you want to play the human specimen game again today?" The crowd began to jeer. Yen Peng coldly looked at Ling Xiao and said, "Brat, either you crawl under this young master's crotch on your knees today and then roll down the stairs, or you wait to be turned into a human specimen by this young master. Your human body, regardless of whether it's a man or a woman, is very fascinating." Ling Xiao originally didn't want to cause trouble, but now that things had gotten to this point, it was impossible for him to sit still even if he wanted to. Killing someone was just a matter of nodding his head to the ground. This bastard called Yen Peng not only treated humans like mounts and livestock, he was even hateful enough to turn them into human specimens. Moreover, he was proudly showing off, as if he had done something great, as if he didn't feel ashamed at all. "If you want to turn me into a human specimen, you'll have to see if you have the life to do it." Ling Xiao looked at Yen Peng. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to cause trouble here, he would have kicked this disgusting fellow out long ago. Sitting with this kind of thing that was worse than a beast, he really felt uncomfortable all over. "What did you say?" Yen Peng's pupils suddenly contracted. revealing a ferocious look. He said coldly, "You'd better figure out what you're doing and who you're facing." "Of course I know. Didn't you just say that I'm talking to a bastard?" Ling Xiao nodded and said seriously, "Ha ha ha, Yen Peng, did you see that? You're being mocked again. People are scolding you again and again. Are you really not going to do anything?" Those who wanted to watch the show didn't mind that things were getting out of hand and continued to instigate. "Good. Very good. This young master has already given you face. It's you who doesn't know what's good for you. Come on. Dig out this brat's eyes. Break the tendons in his arms and legs. Destroy his heavenly veins, and turn him into a living specimen for everyone to see." Yen Peng almost roared out loud, his voice filled with anger and uncontrollable impulses. "Understood." Following Yen Peng's order, a figure dashed out from the VIP area. This person's aura was very dangerous. He was like an assassin hidden in the dark and had been sitting there without moving. It was only when Yen Peng's voice sounded that he suddenly appeared in front of everyone. This was a person who had no presence at all. However, at the same time, he was an extremely dangerous person. Ling Xiao looked at this person indifferently and couldn't help but say, "You're also a human. Are you willing to be this bastard's lackey and kill your own kind?" "I only care about money," that person replied in a cold voice. "You might die because of money." Ling Xiao didn't like those from the Divine Phoenix clan who humiliated humans. He also hated those who were willing to be their lackeys. Wait, just as Ling Xiao was about to make a move, Elder Bai appeared. He stopped the battle that was about to start and respectfully said to Yen Peng, "Young Master Yen Peng, this is the Divine Phoenix auction house after all. It's not good to make a move. If the Dharch is angry, I'm afraid that you won't be able to bear the consequences. I hope that young master can take back his order and understand this old man's difficulties. Of course, I will definitely make this human apologize to you and make him leave the VIP area. I will definitely not cause you any more trouble. Make him scram." Although Yen Peng was from the Great Rock clan and was also a noble, there was still a gap between the Great Rock clan and the Ice Phoenix clan. If he rashly made a move in this auction house, it would really be inappropriate. Thus, he took a deep breath and held it in. He waved his hand at his subordinate, indicating for him to leave. However, he should not have added another sentence. "Brat, consider yourself lucky today. This is the Divine Phoenix auction house. I will give face to the monarch and will not touch you. But once we leave this auction house, I will definitely turn you into a living specimen. Otherwise, where will I put my face?" Hearing this, a murderous intent flashed across Ling Xiao's eyes. No one would sit by and do nothing when a threat was threatened. Ling Xiao was the same. Furthermore, his martial arts path wasn't easy. He was very clear that he couldn't leave behind a disaster. Some threats had to be completely eliminated while they were still in the budding stage. Otherwise, there would be many troubles in the future. In the mystic world, there was no right or wrong. There was no reason to speak of. The so-called right or wrong, the so-called reason, were merely the helpless roars of people without strength. Everything depended on one's strength and influence. "Brat, this is the Divine Phoenix auction house. Our rules are that humans and beasts are absolutely not allowed to enter the VIP area. Come over here now and immediately kneel down and apologize to young Master Yen Peng. Perhaps you can save your life. Otherwise, this old man can't save you." Old Bai looked at Ling Xiao and sternly shouted. In front of Yen Peng, he was respectful as if he was a servant. However, in front of Ling Xiao, he was like a lord who flaunted his prowess. In addition to the factor of strength, it was probably because Ling Xiao lacked influence. Without the powerful sacred dynasty as his backing, Ling Xiao, as a human, really didn't have any status. Hearing this, Ling Xiao was expressionless. He had seen this kind of contempt and disdain many times and was used to it. He knew that it wasn't something that could be solved by roaring or reasoning. If he gave in today, it would become a stain on his life. "What? Do you really want to die?" Old Bai glared at Ling Xiao, as if he had long forgotten that Ling Xiao was a guest of the auction house. "Brat, if you don't do as this old man says, don't even think about getting money for that thing of yours." A threat. A threat without any scruples. Previously, they had only deducted twice the commission. Now, they didn't even want to give him a single spirit stone. This was the ugly face of the Divine Phoenix auction house. Ling Xiao's expression became even colder. "Old thing, you can try. I'll sit in the VIP area today. Let's see who can chase me away." Ling Xiao's cold voice came out of his mouth. Since others didn't give him face, he had to use his own ability to earn it back. Chapter 9:29. A tree had its bark, while a person had his face. Some people could be shameless. Ling Xiao could not. In the VIP area, everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. Someone had not only offended Yan Peng, but also the Divine Phoenix auction house. This guy was too arrogant and did not know how to appreciate favors. "Kid, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I'm talking to you nicely now, and you'll walk out of this auction house later. Do you believe me?" Elder Bai was extremely unhappy. He had stepped in because Ling Xiao was a student of Qingshu College and did not want Ling Xiao to be killed here. Otherwise, the auction house would be implicated. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao to be so stubborn. He did not listen to a single word he said. Not only did he not want to apologize, but he also did not want to leave. "Haha, I refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? When have you ever given me a toast? Don't forget, I'm also a guest of the auction house. According to the rules of the Divine Phoenix auction house, as long as an auction item is worth more than 10 million low-grade spirit stones, they are qualified to sit in the VIP area. Yet you want me to kneel and apologize to him, and you want me to get out? Is this what you call a toast? You don't give me any respect, but you want me to listen to your advice. How can there be such logic in this world?" His dark ice lion was worth at least 10 million low-grade spirit stones, not to mention that he still had to bid for the slave later. Both added together, it was more than enough to sit in the VIP area. As for the rule that humans were not allowed to come up, it was simply added by someone. As soon as Ling Xiao entered the auction house, he had already memorized all the rules of the store. He did not want others to have something on him. Obviously, Elder Bai's attitude did not give him any respect. He even threatened him that he did not intend to give him the spirit stones for the auction items. The purpose of doing this was just to let the young man named Yan Peng vent his anger. "Idiot, this is a toast for you. If you were forced to drink a forfeit, I would have killed you on the spot for injuring the people of the auction house just now." Elder Bai didn't think there was anything wrong with his attitude towards a human. After all, humans were nothing more than animals. He could do whatever he wanted and order them around. In his opinion, not only should Ling Xiao not blame him, but he should also weep and thank him for saving Ling Xiao's life. "So this is your punishment. I understand now." The anger on Ling Xiao's face disappeared and was replaced by a smile. Sure enough, reasoning was useless. In the end, it all depended on whose fist was bigger. Otherwise, everything would be nonsense. Bang! No one saw how Ling Xiao did it. The arrogant, white-haired old man fell from the VIP area on the second floor to the auction area on the first floor in an instant. A huge explosion rang out, alarming many of the guests who were in the middle of bidding. "It's Manager Bai from the auction house. Why was he beaten up? Who is so daring to actually cause trouble at the Divine Phoenix auction house? And it's in the VIP area. It should be some noble young master. Manager Bai has suffered a loss this time. Even the emperor wouldn't provoke those nobles. After all, the election is about to begin. The emperor intends to let the heir, Feng Mingqishan, succeed the throne. It doesn't seem to be a noble young master. It's not? Then who is it?" As the dust settled, many people clearly saw the figure standing on the second floor. It was a young man with fluttering black hair. "I recognize him. Isn't that Ling Xiao, who has a life and death agreement with the Blood Skull? It's really him." "You, You dare to cause trouble at the Divine Phoenix auction house. Elder Bai, who had been sent flying downstairs, really didn't expect that Ling Xiao would be so valiant that he even dared to hit him. He was obviously stronger than Ling Xiao, but he couldn't see how the other party had attacked. This kind of cowardly feeling was really too sullen. You're wrong. I don't want to cause trouble at the Divine Phoenix auction house. I just want to teach you a lesson, you blind trash. Ling Xiao raised his voice and said coldly, You think you can offend me without restraint just because you're the manager here? I hope you understand that I'm a disciple of Qingshu College and a disciple of the elite class. Who do you think you are? What's more, I'm auctioning off a dark ice lion, which is worth more than 10 million low-grade spirit stones. If I take away this auction item now, can you make up for the loss of the Divine Phoenix auction house? It's really unfortunate for the Divine Phoenix auction house to have an idiot like you. Ha ha ha, well said. Brother Ling, don't blame him. It's really this old fellow who is blind and has made you angry. The VIP area is obviously for people like you to sit in. If anyone is dissatisfied, just let them come find me. A loud laugh sounded. The person who walked over was actually a young man who looked to be in his 20s. But from his tone, it seemed that his status was higher than that of Elder Bai. Young master. Elder Bai saw this person and hurriedly got up and respectfully called out. Trash! Why aren't you apologizing to Brother Ling? That young man shouted coldly. There's no need to apologize. He won't be sincere anyway. Since young master has stepped forward, I, Ling Xiao, will give you face. I don't want to delay the auction, but I was insulted by some people in your auction house. You should at least give me an explanation, right? Ling Xiao had already made a move and vented his anger. There was no need to escalate the situation, but he still had to express his stance on the matter. Brother Ling, don't worry. We won't charge any commission for today's auction of the Dark Ice Lion. We'll give you a 50% discount for the items you want to buy. How about it? That young master said with a smile on his face. That's more like it. But young master, you still have to manage this VIP area well. Don't let some fellows who don't know how to talk shit sneak in. Ling Xiao took advantage of the situation today because he showed his strength and because he was a disciple of Qingshu College. In the Imperial City, the disciples of Qingshu College, especially the disciples of the elite class, had a very high status. In addition, this young master probably didn't want him to cause trouble in the auction house. Otherwise, if the auction house was destroyed, the loss would be even greater. Ling Xiao was satisfied, but Yan Peng's face was ashen. Young Master Yan, take it as giving me face today. Don't cause trouble in the auction house. Do you understand what I mean? The young master looked at Yan Peng and smiled. Humph, I'll give you face. Yan Peng snorted. In the end, he didn't dare to cause trouble here. He was a noble of the Divine Phoenix Empire. It was normal that he didn't dare to provoke the monarch. But Ling Xiao wasn't afraid. From the moment he saw that the monarch of the Divine Phoenix Empire was actually working with the true Devil Empire, Ling Xiao didn't treat this monarch as a friend. If he wasn't a friend, then he was an enemy. How could he give this enemy face? That dignified monarch couldn't possibly lower himself to personally kill a nobody like him, right? Moreover, even if that monarch really wanted to kill him, he had a way to escape. Chapter 930. If worse came to worst, he would just leave the Divine Phoenix continent and go to the 5 Immortal Islands. The mystic world was so big, so how could there not be a place for Ling Xiao? Yan Peng glanced at Ling Xiao coldly. He definitely wanted Ling Xiao's life, but he wouldn't do it in the auction house for the time being. Once they left the auction house, Ling Xiao would become a fish in his palm, and he could do whatever he wanted to him. Everyone, please continue. I'll take my leave first. The young master glanced at the crowd and finally looked at Ling Xiao with a cold gaze. Did he really think that he didn't want to teach Ling Xiao a lesson? Ling Xiao had beaten up his people. Even if he was in the right, he wouldn't let Ling Xiao have an easy time. However, he was smart. Ling Xiao had offended the Blood Skull and Yan Peng, so how could he have a good ending? If these two people couldn't teach Ling Xiao a lesson, it wouldn't be too late for him to make a move. After experiencing some turbulence, the auction finally got on the right track. The auction items appeared one after another. Ling Xiao wasn't interested in the other auction items, although many of the rare races from various places looked very beautiful. Ling Xiao didn't forget his goal. He was here for the slaves. Finally, when the curtain of the auction house was lifted again, a man in handcuffs walked out from inside. He was tall and powerful, about 2 meters tall. Among the humans, he was considered to be very strong. Ling Xiao noticed that the slave under Yen pangs, but was obviously excited and unwilling when he saw this man come out. They should be related. Ling Xiao guessed silently. However, now was not the time to guess. This tall and powerful man should be one of the slaves. Until now, he was still wearing his blood-stained battle robe, but his hands and feet were shackled, and his forehead and limbs were sealed with arrays. His battle robe was definitely the battle robe of the Sacred Dynasty. Ling Xiao had seen it in Lin Zai's place before. There were 2 words branded on the man's cheek with a branding iron. One was the word slave that represented his identity. The other was his name or surname, Hua. His messy hair was still stained with blood. The 2 words looked so conspicuous, so chilling. Ling Xiao was very clear that this man was once a general of the Sacred Dynasty. He was the leader of the captured army that Feng Yanran said. Even if he was being sold as a slave, even if he was sold at the auction, this general, he still held his head high and didn't lower his head. He was going to live. Even if he died, he had to die. At this time, no one knew what he was thinking. But Ling Xiao had already decided that he must save this person. Seeing this former general, countless guests showed their interest. This is Qin Hua, the one known as General Fei in the Sky Dragon continent, right? That's him. 10 Heaven's Realm. 10 Heaven Realm. It was rumored that he had killed a Grotto Heaven Realm martial artist from the true demonic empire. And they is. Without waiting for the auctioneer on the stage to announce, the people below the stage had already started discussing. The auctioneer smiled, knowing that he could get a good price this time. This was a 10 Directions Heaven Realm martial artist. Even in Divine Phoenix Continent, he was considered an expert. If he could subdue this kind of person, it would definitely be a good deal. What was frightening was that Qin Hua, the flying general, could actually kill a Heaven Realm expert. Although this was just a rumor and might not be true, this person must have fought with a Heaven Realm martial artist and survived. Just this point alone was enough to arouse the interest of countless people. What's more, he was a general who led an army in battle. He had once led 1,000 men to fight against an army of tens of thousands from true Devil Empire. In the end, not only did he kill the enemy's general, he also completely annihilated the army of tens of thousands. Although because of this battle, they also lost hundreds of men. But this terrifying battle-loss ratio still made Qin Hua dazzled. Looks like everyone knows this Qin Hua, the flying general. Since that's the case, I won't explain any more. The starting price of the auction is 5 million low-grade spirit stones. Each increment must not be less than 100,000. The auction starts now. As the host's voice fell, the atmosphere on the stage instantly became fiery. A 10 Directions Heaven Realm expert was comparable to Divine Phoenix Continent's 10 Phoenix Sons. Judging from age, this Qin Hua was merely 5 years older than the oldest of the 10 Phoenixes. Such a young age with such strength, even a Heaven Realm martial artist would want to bid for him as a slave. Qin Hua raised his head and looked at the surrounding guests in disdain. Although his heavenly essence energy was sealed and he was unable to attack. But his soul power was unable to be sealed. Because once one's soul power was sealed, he would become a fool. The auction house caught Qin Hua to sell him for money. If he became a fool, no one would want him. An ice-cold aura gushed out from his body. It was as if a terrifying war god had descended. Behind Qin Hua was an enormous figure wearing battle armor and holding a huge axe. Xingtian martial spirit. Heavens, that's the war god of the ancient era. Although he belonged to the human race, he went against the human king and was beheaded by the human king in the end. Right, even without his head, Xingtian's soul was not extinguished. And in this battle, the human king was also heavily injured. He had to recuperate for 10 years before recovering. No wonder this Qin, whose battle strength is so powerful. This is the war god martial spirit. A terrifying aura spread out in all directions, causing many guests to tremble. Some even fainted. This aura also enveloped Ling Xiao. But at this moment, the human king's aura within Ling Xiao's body came in handy. Qin, whose gaze was fixed on Ling Xiao. It was somewhat inconceivable and also somewhat excited. Pa! A whip ruthlessly lashed on Qin Hua's body, causing the furious Qin Hua to withdraw his berserk will. That whip is strange. Ling Xiao noticed that there were many small arrays on the whip. The layout was very exquisite. Logically speaking, Divine Phoenix Continent should not have such a powerful array master. Could it be that an expert from 5 Immortal Island helped to refine it? 6 million low-grade spirit stones. Someone had already started to bid. After being lashed by the whip, Qin Hua no longer released his will. He only used his eyes to stare at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao only faintly smiled at him. Then he said via secret sound transmission, "General has worked hard. I will rescue you." Hearing this, Qin Hua was clearly stunned for a moment. After a long while, he nodded. "Many thanks." He did not necessarily trust Ling Xiao, but as long as there is a trace of opportunity, he wants to escape from this damned place. Therefore, he must grab this opportunity. 6,500,000. The auction continued and the bid continued to rise. 7 million. In just a short moment, the bid had actually risen to 7 million. The bidders seemed to have forgotten that the minimum bid was 100,000 USD. Although they were frightened by Qin Hua's aura and martial spirit, the more they liked him, the more they liked him. However, the more powerful Qin Hua was, the more they liked him. After all, only such a powerful Qin Hua was worthy of their high price. Chapter 931. Although there were many generals captured by the True Devil Empire, Qin Hua was the only one who refused to surrender and had a powerful martial spirit and battle power. Moreover, many people were not interested in Qin Hua, but his heaven-punishing martial spirit, which could also be said to be the immemorial war god martial spirit. Although transferring the immemorial martial soul through the current method was very dangerous and had a high possibility of failure, it was still very dangerous. But it did not exclude those rich people who would do such a crazy thing for themselves or their descendants. Martial artists had a price, but the value of an immemorial martial spirit was even higher. Even a half-demon of the Divine Phoenix Continent could implant a martial spirit. When the bloodline and martial spirit fused, the power born would be even more powerful. Actually, Ling Xiao was a very good example. He had the immemorial Golden Dragon bloodline and also had the Mountain River martial spirit. With the two combined, not only would his cultivation speed increase greatly, but more importantly, his battle power would be much higher than martial artists of the same cultivation. 7,500,000 low-grade spirit stones. Another person bid an even higher price. This made Ling Xiao somewhat nervous. He took a deep breath. Luckily, he still had a large amount of heavenly spirit pills that he had not used. If he really did not have enough spirit stones, he might as well use the heavenly spirit pills to pay off the debt. He must obtain Qin Hua. However, Ling Xiao naturally did not do it for the martial spirit, but purely wanted to obtain such a capable helper. He wanted to rebuild the human empire, so he could not do without a helper, including the heavenly spirit pills. He believed that among the martial artists here, there was absolutely no one who was richer than him. This included the people sitting in the VIP area. 8 million. The bids continued. Many people acted as if the spirit stones were not spirit stones and were simply crazily bidding. 10 million. Suddenly, a voice attracted everyone's gaze. The bidding price directly increased from 8 million to 10 million. This made many people helplessly shake their heads and give up the hope of continuing to bid. Ling Xiao did not need to look to know who this person was. It was that Yan Peng. This guy had already bought a general as a slave. Although he was not as good as Qin Hua, he was also at the 9th layer of Heaven Realm. He was actually still not satisfied. Did a lowly human martial artist make him so excited? Some of the people below did not have enough spirit stones and could not continue to compete with Yan Peng. Some were purely afraid of Yan Peng and didn't dare to compete with him. For a moment, the auction house became silent. The host looked at Yan Peng and said with a smile, "Young Master Yan is truly bold. This Qin who will likely break through to the Grotto Heaven Realm soon. With him by your side, you will have a very good fighter." "You're wrong." Yan Peng shook his head and smiled. "I just like to play with these humans." After saying that, he actually chopped off the head of the slave under his buttocks. This scene caused Qin Hua to let out a hysterical roar. Evidently, Qin Hua was acquainted with that slave. "What are you shouting for? I know that he is your blood brother, but so what? If you don't listen to me, you will end up like him." Yan Peng sneered and ordered his subordinates to carry away the body of the slain slave. He chuckled and said, "I'm tired of playing with this human slave. Let's exchange for a stronger one. Ha 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 ha." "Bastard!" Ling Xiao clenched his fists. He felt as if his heart is bleeding. Although the person who was killed is not someone related to him. However, in a situation where there is no enmity between them, to kill the younger brother in front of the older brother, this kind of cruelty is not something that an ordinary person can understand. Angry? Hee, too bad it's useless. If you have the money, buy him. Ha ha ha. Yan Peng looked at Ling Xiao and laughed. Right now, he is eager for Ling Xiao to make a move. As long as Ling Xiao makes a move, he will have the opportunity to make a move here. 1 million. Ling Xiao tried his best to calm down. He absolutely cannot allow Qin Hua to be bought by this bastard Yan Peng. If that happens, Qin Hua will really be crippled. The majestic great general of the sacred dynasty, General Fei, who possesses war god martial spirit, should not fall like this. Absolutely not. What is money? At worst, he can just refine more pills. Brat, this is more than 10 million low-grade spirit stones. Do you have that many? Yan Peng was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that Ling Xiao would actually dare to bid with him. Does this guy want to fight with him to the end? Ling Xiao did not say anything and directly took out a gourd containing 100 heavenly spirit pills and said, "Here are 100 heavenly spirit pills. I spent 20 million low-grade spirit stones to buy them from the Heavenly Dragon Auction House. Do you think I have that much money? Damn it. It was you who stole the heavenly spirit pills." Yan Peng was so angry that his teeth itched. He was not at the auction house. When he heard about it from his family, he regretted it. If he was there, even if he had to spend more low-grade spirit stones, he would still want to get the heavenly spirit pills. 11 million low-grade spirit stones. Yan Peng gritted his teeth and shouted, 1 million. Ling Xiao said indifferently as if these spirit stones are nothing. 12 million. Yan Peng's face became more gloomy and his voice became louder. It's useless to be loud. 1 million. Ling Xiao continued to raise the price. Yan Peng didn't call out a price. He stared at Ling Xiao for a while, then suddenly chuckled. You win. This slave is yours. He did not give up, but he felt that if he continued to raise the price, it would be a bit of a waste. Anyway, after leaving the auction house, it would be Ling Xiao's time to die. Why should he waste his spirit stones? If he wanted something, no one else could take it away. Are you thinking of snatching this general from me after leaving the auction house? Ling Xiao seemed to be able to see through Yan Peng's thoughts and sneered. I hope you don't get killed by him. Don't forget what you just did. He really wants to cut your head off and kick it like a ball. Humph, you are only good at talking. Yen Peng snorted coldly and did not seem to be afraid. Wrong. I'm even richer than you, a so-called aristocrat. Ling Xiao smiled and looked at the auctioneer. According to the 50% discount, I only need to pay you 6,050,000 low-grade spirit stones, right? Yes, that's right. F***CK, how could I forget this? Yen Peng patted his head gloomily. Just now, he was only focused on fighting with Ling Xiao and completely forgot about the 50% discount. Ling Xiao ignored his mad and unhappy expression and sat down. The transaction would only start after the auction ended, so he was not in a hurry. Next up is the Dark Ice Lion. Let's begin. It was reasonable to say that the Dark Ice Lion's final transaction price should not be higher than Qinhua's. But unlike human slaves, this Dark Ice Lion was a good thing to show off. Rich martial artists would not mind spending a bit more to bid for this thing. However, since Yen Peng knew that the Dark Ice Lion was Ling Xiao's, he would probably interfere. Chapter 932. The starting price of the Profound Ice Lion is 5 million low-grade spirit stones. Similarly, each bid must not be less than 100,000. Let the auction begin. In the eyes of the host, the Profound Ice Lion's value was about the same as Qinhua's. This was truly somewhat helpless. The wealthier the noble class was now, the more they seemed to be neglecting their proper business. If this went on, they would probably gradually lose their competitive edge. No wonder dynasties would always change. After all, the flowers in the greenhouse would never be able to experience too cruel an experience. 1 million low-grade spirit stones. Who dares to compete with me? The auction for the Profound Ice Lion had just begun when Yen Peng suddenly stood up and roared. His roar made many people who were about to bid swallow their words back down. This guy is indeed planning to scam me. The killing intent in Ling Xiao's heart became even stronger. Not only was this Yen Peng's character extremely low, he was also constantly finding trouble with him. No matter who it was, they would probably be unable to tolerate this guy's actions. Young Master Yen, this isn't too good. Someone frowned. This was someone from the VIP area. However, just as this person finished speaking, he was slapped in the face. It was done by Yen Peng's subordinate. That guy was really strong and terrifying. Ling Xiao indifferently watched all of this happen, but he wasn't anxious. He didn't believe that Yen Peng could cover the sky with one hand. In the end, Yen Peng was only a small noble of the great rock clan. There were definitely many people who weren't afraid of him. Yen Peng hoped to see anger and unwillingness on Ling Xiao's face, but he was disappointed. Ling Xiao's calmness was completely out of his expectations. Pretend. Continue pretending. This young master wants to see how long you can pretend for. Yen Peng angrily said in his heart, I bid 2 million. Young Master Yen, I also like this Profound Ice Lion. Finally, someone from the VIP area bid again. Seeing this person, Yen Peng couldn't help but frown. The one competing with him was also a noble of the divine Phoenix Empire, and he was also learning martial arts at the Phoenix Academy. So, it's Ming Ling from the Dark Phoenix clan. Can you give me some face? As long as you give me, Yen Peng, some face today, I'll definitely repay you in the future. When Yen Peng saw this person, he didn't dare to be too ruthless, so he said softly, Hee, I'm just joking with you. In fact, Ming Ling had no interest in the Dark Ice Lion. As one of the 10 great Phoenix sons, the Dark Phoenix son, if placed in the past, he would be the crown prince. The reason why he insisted on bidding was because of his reputation. He couldn't let others think that he was afraid of Yen Peng. However, since Yen Peng's attitude was so good, there was no need for him to continue fighting. Many thanks, Dark Phoenix son. Yen Peng wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. In a moment of impulse, he actually forgot about the crouching tigers and hidden dragons in this auction house. He had almost defended a big shot. But after this, there shouldn't be anyone who would fight with him, right? Yen Peng breathed a sigh of relief and said 5 3 million, this thing is mine. Hee hee, young Master Yen, you sure talk big. I like this thing very much. I'll buy it for 10 million low-grade spirit stones. Just when Yen Peng thought that he could finally buy this dark ice lion at a cheap price, a voice rang out, and it even carried a bit of ridicule. Who? Who the hell dares to compete with this young master? Yen Peng was about to go crazy with anger. It was fine if Mingling didn't give him face. After all, that was one of the 10 great Phoenix Suns, the Dark Phoenix Sun. But he had just carefully looked around. In the VIP seats, there was no one stronger than him, nor was there anyone with a bigger family background than him. More importantly, this voice came from below. He didn't know which reckless lowlife actually dared to compete with him. His eyes revealed a strong killing intent. He really wanted to find that guy right now and then cut him into pieces. What? Is young Master Yen planning to deal with me? A cold and pleasant voice came from a certain direction. Ling Xiao also looked down. After seeing that person, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. This person was wearing a fiery red dress and was very beautiful. Although she wasn't the top beauty, she was definitely an outstanding woman. It was none other than Feng Yanran. Ling Xiao asked Feng Yanran to go back and cultivate, but Feng Yanran was not at ease. She sneaked into the commoner area and prepared to help at any time. At this moment, seeing that Yen Peng shamelessly wanted to lower the price, plus she was also interested in the dark ice lion, she opened her mouth and bid. Previously, she borrowed some spirit stones from Feng Qingyan and received some rewards from Ling Xiao. She already had 15 million low-rank spirit stones, so she should be able to compete. It's you. Seeing that it was Feng Yanran, Yen Peng couldn't help but feel discouraged. Everyone knew that the crown prince, Feng Yinshan, was very protective of Feng Yanran. Yen Peng's power was not small, but compared to the crown prince, it was like heaven and earth. What? Young Master Yen doesn't allow me to compete? Feng Yanran sneered. Of course you can. Yen Peng knew that Feng Yanran would not give him face and give up the competition because everyone knew that Feng Yanran was a rare disciple of the imperial family who joined Qingshu College. Moreover, she had a very good relationship with Ling Xiao. How could such a person listen to him and give him Yen Peng face? But Miss Yanran, if you want to bid for this dark ice lion, it depends on who has more money. Yen Peng gritted his teeth. He originally wanted to cheat Ling Xiao and buy the dark ice lion at a low price. But now it seemed that it was impossible to lower the price, so he could only compete with Feng Yanran. Then we can try. Feng Yanran smiled and jumped into the VIP seat. Of course, she also knew that the VIP area had a half-price discount. With her identity, of course, she was qualified. 1 million. In the end, Yen Peng still didn't want to spend too much money, so he kept increasing the price. Young Master Yen, you are too stingy. Increasing the price so little at a time? I will pay 20 million low-rank spirit stones. Because it was a 50% discount, Feng Yanran was of course not afraid that she couldn't afford so many spirit stones. Facing Feng Yanran, Yen Peng couldn't go out and rob, so if he wanted, he could only continue to bid. Gritting his teeth, after a moment of silence, Yen Peng shouted, 21 million. Well, it's yours. What? Yen Peng was stunned for a moment. His brain didn't understand. How could Feng Yanran, who was determined to compete until the end, give up bidding now? You tricked me. After a long while, he finally came back to his senses. Feng Yanran smiled and said, Young Master Yen, you can't say that. I really don't have that many low-grade spirit stones. Alas, there's no other way. Who can be as rich as you, Young Master Yen? A profound ice lion that is only worth 6 or 7 million low-grade spirit stones. You actually paid more than 20 million. I'm convinced. Haha. Unrestrained laughter rang out in the auction hall. Perhaps it was because the auction hall was too quiet at this moment, causing the laughter to sound so loud and ear-piercing. Chapter 933. Yan Peng stared at Ling Xiao, who was still laughing. His whole body was trembling with anger. You dare to laugh at me? Why wouldn't I dare to laugh at you? You're just an idiot, yet you still want to lower the price. Think about it, the mysterious ice lion is such a good thing. Even if Yanran doesn't bid, will no one bid against you? Great Rock Clan's young master? You think too highly of yourself. Ling Xiao was even more disdainful of Yan Peng. This person was too self-righteous, as if there was no one else in the imperial city other than the Great Rock Clan. He didn't know that there were many people in the imperial city who dared to not give face to the aristocrats. These people weren't weak. They had the courage and confidence to not give face to the imperial family. However, the price of the item had risen to more than 20 million, which was a bit too high. They felt that it wasn't worth it, so they stopped bidding. Yanran, let's go. Leaving behind an embarrassed Yan Peng, Ling Xiao called Feng Yanran, and the two returned to the backstage. Ling Xiao paid more than 6 million low-grade spirit stones for Qinhua, and he actually made a profit. He originally thought that he would need to use the heavenly spirit pill, but he didn't use it this time. Can the seal on this person be removed? Ling Xiao looked at the white-haired old man, who was still limping after being beaten by him, and asked, Young Master Ling, it's not that we don't want to remove it, but after the seal is removed, with his strength, I'm afraid you won't be able to control him. If something happens to you in the auction house, we won't be able to answer to Qingshu College. The white-haired old man replied. Hee, are you deliberately making things difficult for me? Ling Xiao sneered and no longer spoke. He left the auction house with Feng Yanran and Qinhua. At this moment, Qinhua was still under the control of the seal, so he was no different from a strong, ordinary person. As long as a warrior was slightly stronger, he could be subdued. Although Qinhua didn't really trust Ling Xiao, he could only leave the auction house by following Ling Xiao. Hence, he didn't say anything. When they walked out of the door, Yan Peng suddenly appeared behind the white-haired old man. He patted the white-haired old man's shoulder and said, Manager, bye, well done. Otherwise, if Qinhua were to break the seal, my men might not be his match. Young Master Yan, you flatter me. That Ling Xiao actually dared to make a move on me. I want to see him die right now. Old Bai laughed ferociously. Ha ha ha, don't worry. You'll see that kid's living specimen very soon. Yan Peng laughed wildly. On the way to Qingshu College, there were few people. Ling Xiao suddenly stopped and casually unlocked Qinhua's shackles. Then he said, General Qin, next I will release your seal. Do not resist. Qinhua was stunned for a moment. Then he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression and nodded repeatedly. He didn't know if Ling Xiao's words were true or not, but as long as there was a glimmer of hope, he wouldn't give up. Yanran, I'll have to trouble you to stand guard. It might take some time to release the seal. Ling Xiao looked at Feng Yanran and said, Why don't you do it after we go back? Feng, Yanran glanced at Qinhua. It was obvious that she didn't trust Qinhua. With Qinhua's strength, it would be easy for him to deal with the two of them. Because it's too late. Do you think Yan Peng will let me go? Ling Xiao smiled and said, I'll give him a surprise. After saying that, he didn't waste any more time. He took out some materials from his storage ring and began the process of releasing the seal. Ling Xiao's attainments in the art of refining formations weren't any worse than his alchemy skills. Although the formation that sealed Qinhua's Yuan Qi was powerful, it was far inferior to the immemorial formation. It could only be considered as ordinary. He estimated that it would only take 15 minutes to completely release it. Now, he only hoped that there wouldn't be any trouble in this 15 minutes. After all, in the process of releasing the seal, it required both soul power and heaven's Yuan Qi. Once it was affected, it would be very dangerous. However, 15 minutes was still too long. In around 10 minutes, danger arrived. It was the assassin beside Yan Peng. He was also a 10 Directions Heaven realm martial artist. No wonder Yen Peng would stop the Divine Phoenix auction house from releasing Qin Hui's seal. Although this assassin was powerful, Qin Hui wasn't afraid of him. Stop! Phone! Yen Ran blocked the assassin's path. Move, or I'll kill you too. The assassin frowned. He knew Feng Yanran's identity and didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive in the Imperial City. How much did Yanping give you? I can double it. Feng Yanran knew that her identity and position wouldn't be able to scare this person. Hence, she used the method of bribing him with money. You think I'll fall for it? The assassin sneered and stopped talking nonsense. He could tell that Feng Yanran was stalling for time. Suddenly, he turned into an afterimage. Then, Feng Yanran fell to the ground. The assassin didn't dare to be ruthless. However, it wasn't a problem to knock Feng Yanran unconscious. Die. After dealing with Feng Yanran, the assassin's remaining targets were Ling Xiao and Qin Hua. As long as he killed these two, he would be able to get a large sum of money from Yen Peng. From then on, he would be free and unfettered. He could have whatever he wanted. At the critical moment, the heaven-punishing martial spirit appeared behind Qin, who was back again. His fighting spirit pounced towards the assassin, attempting to use his martial spirit to temporarily block the assassin. Insignificant skill. The assassin sneered. Similarly, his martial spirit appeared behind him. It was a blurry blood shadow. It was hard to tell what it was. However, after that thing appeared, the assassin's aura suddenly surged. At the same time, a powerful will collided with Qin Hui's fighting spirit. Boom! Both of their wills disappeared at the same time. The assassin revealed a sinister smile. The sharp blade pierced through the void and pierced towards Ling Xiao's throat. However, at that moment, his expression suddenly changed. He didn't know when, but a huge eye appeared in the sky and stared at him. That terrifying will was actually much stronger than Qin Hui's. How is this possible? The assassin's entire body was covered in cold sweat. His spiritual sea was in a state of chaos. He couldn't even use the move he was about to use. Soul power was the key to controlling martial skills. Inner strength was the key to the power of martial skills. He couldn't lack any of them. He discovered that he had underestimated Ling Xiao. This young man was far more terrifying than he had imagined. Blood destruction art. The assassin suddenly roared and spat out a mouthful of blood. His originally chaotic eyes gradually returned to normal. By using this self-harming method, he had broken Ling Xiao's eye of the world. You must die. After being plotted against by Ling Xiao, the assassin felt that Ling Xiao deserved to die. This wasn't only because of Yen Peng's order. It was also because he felt a huge threat. Blood destruction. Spitting out another mouthful of blood, the two daggers in the assassin's hands turned blood red. He used a terrifying move and attacked Ling Xiao. Very fast, very powerful. His moves were also very crafty. Chapter 934. The assassin couldn't give Ling Xiao any chance to escape. He wanted to kill Ling Xiao with a single strike. However, he had forgotten the time. Or perhaps he had never thought that Ling Xiao would be able to undo Qin Hui's seal. In the next instant, a huge fist appeared in his field of vision. It was Qin Hui. That fist was like a huge hammer. By the time he reacted and wanted to block it, it was already too late. His body flew out like a cannonball, crashing through several trees before coming to a stop. Run! The assassin didn't dare hesitate. After being ambushed by Qin Hui, he was already heavily injured. Only death awaited him if he stayed. He was confident that if he wanted to run, Qin Hui wouldn't be able to catch up. However, he didn't expect that the moment he thought of running, a hole would appear in his chest. It was as if something had pierced through it. The coldness was filled with terrifying killing intent. Shadow drill! Ling Xiao slowly stood up and looked coldly at the assassin. He didn't want such a dangerous person to escape. Otherwise, he would definitely be a huge threat to him. Therefore, this person had to die. Only at the moment of his death did the assassin realize that he had made a wrong judgment from the beginning. The biggest threat wasn't Xinhua, but that Ling Xiao whose cultivation didn't seem to be much. Not only was this kid extremely cunning, but his methods were also extremely ruthless. General Qin, what are your plans from now on? Ling Xiao looked at Xinhua and asked. Xinhua sighed and said, Thank you for saving me, young hero. However, I still have some brothers who haven't come out of the auction house. I have to think of a way to save them. As for the future, let's talk about it later. At this moment, Xinhua's trust in Ling Xiao increased by a lot, because Ling Xiao was actually able to undo his seal. Just this point alone was enough to make him feel endless admiration. I will think of a way to save your brothers. Let me introduce myself. I am Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao knew that it was impossible to force someone with such a stubborn character to do anything. After all, Ling Xiao didn't have that kind of strength right now. Therefore, he didn't force it. He just tried his best to do what he could. Once this kind of person had trust in you, they would trust you for a lifetime and be loyal to you forever. Ling Xiao. Qin was suddenly thought of something. Could it be that you are the chosen one, Ling Xiao? Not bad. Ling Xiao did not deny it. Hearing this, Qin, who had directly knelt on the ground and cupped his hands as he said, This subordinate pays respect to heaven's chosen son. If it's you, then this subordinate is willing to follow you. Faced with Qin's pledge of loyalty, Ling Xiao did not immediately express his stance. Instead, he said coldly, What I hate the most is betrayal. So, you still have the chance to regret it now. If you follow me, you will be loyal to me for the rest of your life. Once you betray me, I will use all means to kill you. So if you can't do it, then leave. I can introduce you to a good place to go. I guarantee that you will be able to display your ability. Qin shook his head and said, This subordinate has heard about what happened in the holy city. The chosen one relied on his own strength to save the remaining cultivators of the sacred dynasty. From that moment onwards, this subordinate believed that you are the true ruler that can rebuild the human dynasty, just like the mortal king from all those years ago. Not to mention that I, Qinhua, am not an ungrateful person. If it wasn't for the chosen one, then I, Qinhua, would probably have suffered the same fate as my younger brother and be at the mercy of others. All right, since you have such thoughts, then follow me. But I will say the same thing. I hate betrayal. Since you have chosen to follow me, then don't have any other thoughts. Ling Xiao walked forward, helped Qin up, and said, General Qin, get up. I will be staying in Qingshu College for the time being. You can stay there with me for now. When there is news about your brothers, I will think of a way to rescue them. Originally, Ling Xiao had planned to rescue those people today, but unfortunately he didn't get to see them. When the auction ended, he only saw Qinhua, and the whereabouts of the others were unknown. This subordinate obeys. Qin cupped his hands and said, From this moment onwards, his life belonged to Ling Xiao. He also wanted to take a gamble to see if Ling Xiao was a true dragon among men or a bug pretending to be a dragon. But with his character, no matter if Ling Xiao was a dragon or a bug, he would still be loyal to him until his death. If it was a dragon, then he would be lucky. If it was a bug, then he could only blame himself for being unlucky. Bring Yanran, let's go. After dealing with the assassin, Ling Xiao still had some worries in his heart. That Yan Peng probably hated him to the bone and wouldn't only place his hopes on a mere heaven realm 10 directions, heaven assassin. There would definitely be a backup plan. Yes, Qin, who carried Feng, Yanran on his back and followed Ling Xiao into the distance. Not long after they left, a figure appeared at the location of the battle. Seeing the assassin's corpse, the figure shook his head. I didn't expect that the young master of the auction house to be right. This Ling Xiao is really not simple. Looks like he has already undone Qin's seal. Otherwise, this person wouldn't have died. Ignoring the corpse, the figure sped up in the direction Ling Xiao left. Although there were few people on the road, there were still martial artists passing by. Seeing this person, they all hid on the side of the road, not daring to move. Oh my, a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. What is he doing? They swallowed their saliva, terrified. Even in the divine Phoenix continent, Grotto Heaven realm martial artists were still a minority. It was considered good if there were 300 to 400 Grotto Heaven realm martial artists on the entire continent. This number was much more than the Heavenly Dragon continent, but it was still very small. The figure ignored them and continued to follow the footprints. However, after a moment, he stopped. Come out, hiding is useless. The figure coldly looked in a direction in the forest and shouted, Don't make me do it, or I'll kill Feng Yanran too. In the bushes, Ling Xiao felt somewhat helpless. If he was alone, he could naturally avoid this person's pursuit. Unfortunately, he had Feng Yanran, who had been knocked unconscious because of him. He definitely couldn't leave Feng Yanran alone. Suddenly, a black figure scuttled out from the bushes. It was Qin Hua. A long spear had appeared in his hand at an unknown time, and where the spear pointed, energy exploded. Humph, your seal was indeed undone, but it's useless. The Grotto Heaven realm martial artist coldly snorted. Without using a weapon, he met the long spear with his palms and actually blocked the long spear across the air. Then, energy exploded and sent Qin Hua flying. General Fei's name is indeed extraordinary. Your battle strength is indeed at the level of a martial artist who has just entered the Grotto Heaven realm. Unfortunately, you're not my match. The Grotto Heaven realm martial artist was obviously surprised by Qin Hua's strength. If an ordinary Heaven Realm or 10 Directions Heaven Realm martial artist were to fight him, they would definitely die. However, this Qin Hua could calmly retreat. He was really not simple. You shouldn't have chased me. Qin Hua shook his head. Those who come must die. With just you? The Grotto Heaven realm martial artist was disdainful. Chapter 935. What if I join in? Ling Xiao slowly walked out of the bushes. The eye of the world hung above his head, emitting a strange light. You're not even worth mentioning. Although the Grotto Heaven realm martial artist felt that Ling Xiao was fierce, he was also a Grotto Heaven realm master. So how could he fear him? Really? Ling Xiao revealed a cold smile and said, Soul Judgment, Immortal Flask. The soul dye had undergone evolution and modification. In the end, it had been modified by Ling Xiao according to his will and the guidance of the mountain and river martial spirit into the current soul judgment. This was a long process. During this process, Ling Xiao didn't use the soul dye to fight again. Fun Tian Divine Tomb. Now it was the immortal pot. Soul adjudication had evolved from the 2 skills in the past and had finally evolved into a 3rd ability. The burning heavens could burn everything. It was the burning of the soul fire from the inside out. The Tomb of the Gods could summon all the dead creatures in the Tomb of the Gods. As for the immortal pot, it could store the souls of all objects and turn them into spiritual liquid, which could be used by martial artists to increase their soul power. The gigantic gourd floated in the air, its powerful suction force seemingly able to pull out the soul of a Grotto Heaven realm warrior. Of course, the other party was a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist after all. Although he was only at the 2nd stage of the Grotto Heaven realm, he had a clear sky cultivation. In the Grotto Heaven realm, one had to form 10 Grotto Heavens above their heavenly veins. First, Wang Wu Mountain Cave, nicknamed Little Clear Void Heaven. Second, Weiyu Cave, nicknamed Plenty of Time for Tomorrow. Third, the Western City Cave, known as Taixian Total True Heaven. Fourth, Xixian Mountain Cave, known as 3 Xian Extreme Heaven. Fifth, Qingqing Cave, known as Treasure Immortals 9 Chambers. Sixth, the Crimson Castle Cave, nicknamed Shangqing Yuping Mountain. 7th, Mount Luofu's Heavenly Abode, known as Zhu Mingyao's True Heaven. 8th, Jutsu Cave, Golden Altar Huayang Sky. 9th, Forest Cave, Dragon God Nether Void Sky. 10th Kwokang Mountain Cave, known as Hidden Heaven of Virtue. Although his opponent had just condensed his second Grotto Heaven, but his strength was equally powerful. Ling Zhao's immortal pot alone was not enough to punish him. This was the benefit of Qin Hua's existence. Taking this opportunity, Qin Hua suddenly burst forth. The long spear turned into a terrifying force, condensing all the heavenly essence energy in his body, and pierced towards the Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. This stab was like a warrior rushing to his death. Qin Hua had no distracting thoughts in his heart. He only wanted to defeat that Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, because either this person died or they died. He had no other choice. Boom! The ferocious attack pierced through the Grotto Heaven realm martial artist's protective heavenly essence energy, and his chest was pierced through. It wasn't that this person was too weak. The key was that Ling Xiao was there to pin him down. With the two of them working together, it would be relatively easy for them to kill a second stage Ascendant Void realm martial artist. No, his body was pierced, and his soul let out a sorrowful cry. The terrifying suction force of the immortal pot seized the opportunity and directly sucked this person's soul in. Withdraw! Ling Xiao kept the immortal pot. He could feel that the soul within the immortal pot was constantly resisting. Unfortunately, it was useless. It was only a soul, and it couldn't escape the restraints of the immortal pot. Pretend that you didn't see what happened today. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. The cold voice woke those martial artists hiding in the dark and trembling with fear from their shock. They felt their mouths and tongues go dry, and terror engulfed their entire body. The scene just now was too shocking. Two Heaven realm martial artists working together had actually killed a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. So easily. The most terrifying thing was that they actually sucked away the other party's soul. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Ling Xiao didn't have the intention to silence them. He wasn't that kind of person. Moreover, even if this matter spread out, others would only think that he had some treasure in his hands. They probably wouldn't be able to link it to the existence of soul judgment. After all, soul judgment evolved from soul dice. Even the soul race probably wouldn't be able to recognize it. The key was that this change was a little too big. Are the two of you looking for those imprisoned human slaves? Just as Ling Xiao and Qin Hua were about to leave with Feng Yanran, a person flashed out from the forest and asked respectfully, "You know?" "That's right. As far as I know, those slaves were all sold to the military and escorted to the border to build the city wall." The person answered, "Which direction?" "North, in the direction adjacent to the Black Crow Empire." "This is for you." Ling Xiao casually threw 1,000 low-grade spirit stones to the person and said, "If what you said is true, these are yours. If you dare to deceive us, you've seen what happened to that person just now. I'm also a human. Although I don't dare to offend the divine phoenix race, I'm still duty-bound to help with such a small matter." The person cupped his hands and said, "Qin Hua, you go north first. I'll catch up after sending Yanran back to Qingshu College." Ling Xiao thought for a moment and said, "There's a slave trading base at the border. The military slaves are probably sent there to be sold. Very few of them are sent to the northern border." He learned about this from Ji Ning's letter. In these years, the imperial court basically didn't give Ji Ning new sources of soldiers. Instead, they wanted him to guard the northern desert. They wanted to use the Black Crow Empire to kill him. This slave trading base was relatively far from the northern desert city. It was guarded by another general of the Ice Phoenix race. The slaves sold there wouldn't have a good ending. After saying this, Ling Xiao tapped Qin Hua's forehead, and a clear map appeared in Qin Hua's mind. This caused Qin Hua to be extremely shocked. "Got it, chosen one. I'll go first." Qin Hua leaped into the air and left. Ling Xiao didn't dare to waste time. He directly returned to Qingshu College. After handing Feng Yan ran over to Feng Qingyan. He set off to catch up with Qinhua. After 2 hours, Ling Xiao caught up with Qinhua. This made General Qinhua very shocked. The reason why he was called General Qinhua was because of his amazing body movement. He didn't expect that Ling Xiao could catch up with him so easily. Qinhua smiled bitterly, but he was more confident. Following such a person, he wouldn't regret it in the future. Chosen One, I've just asked the people here. A group of slaves was indeed sent here. However, they were sent out to sea a day ago. They said they were going to Piping Island, one of the 7 great martial Guru Islands. Qinhua said, helplessly, Piping Island? That's an interesting name. Ling Xiao frowned. He didn't expect that even after chasing after them, he still had to watch those people get sent away. Chosen One, that's interesting. It said that Pichio only goes in and doesn't go out. I've also inquired about it. Those who went to Piping Island, whether they were slaves or other martial artists, never came back. Qinhua said worriedly, well, first of all, don't call me Chosen One. Just call me Ling Xiao or Brother Ling in the future to avoid suspicion. Secondly, I want to know why there are martial artists willing to go to Piping Island. Ling Xiao asked. Chapter 936. I've also asked about this. Rumor has it that Piping Island is rich in treasures, especially Heaven Essence crystals that can be used by Heaven Realm and Grotto Heaven Realm cultivators. Qinhua replied, this Heaven Essence crystal isn't a spirit stone, nor is it an elixir. It's a very special crystal formed by condensing Heaven Essence energy. The manufacturing method is unknown, but it's very effective in increasing cultivation. That's why so many cultivators go there. Of course, I know about Heaven Essence crystals. It's also recorded in the Eternal Divine Pill Scripture. It said that even Yin-Yang realm cultivators can't refine this kind of crystal. How did Piping Island do it? Ling Xiao frowned and pondered for a while. He still couldn't figure it out, so he asked, those people who went there never came back? Some came back, but those people were only a few. Moreover, their cultivations were greatly improved, and they also obtained many treasures. Qinhua replied. Before Ling Xiao arrived, he had already asked about the situation here. He originally wanted to go to Piping Island himself, but who knew that Ling Xiao would come so quickly? Looks like we have to go to Piping Island. Let's go to the dock. Although Piping Island wasn't too far from Divine Phoenix Continent, it was almost impossible to fly there unless they took a ship. Ling Xiao had the Moonlight treasured ship, but he didn't want to take it out so easily. If he really couldn't rent a ship, it wouldn't be too late to use it then. Yes, the two went to the nearby dock and found that it was very bustling. It was like a market in a medium-sized town. Not only were there a large number of merchants selling their goods here, but there were also many cultivators waiting for a ship to open. A huge puppet ship was docked at the dock. It probably wouldn't be a problem to hold thousands of people. There was a flag hanging on this huge ship, and the picture of a Pichio was drawn on it. There was no need to ask. This was definitely Piping Island ship. Here, what shocked Ling Xiao was that almost all the cultivators were above the celestial realm, and there were even a few Grotto Heaven Realm cultivators mixed in. It seemed that although Piping Island was dangerous, it was also very attractive. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people wanting to go there. Brother Ling, look over there. There's Heaven Essence crystal for sale. Qinhua pointed at one of the stalls and said, it's actually a real Heaven Essence crystal. Originally, Ling Xiao thought that these so-called Tianyuan crystals were all made up to deceive people. However, after he appraised them, he discovered that these things were actually real. How many low-grade spirit stones is this Heaven Essence crystal worth? Ling Xiao asked. In any case, the giant ship had not been activated yet, so there was no point in them being anxious. They might as well inquire about the situation. The stall owner smiled and said, the two of you shouldn't have been here before, right? It's no wonder. The preciousness of the Heaven Essence crystal I'm sure the two of you should have heard of it. A piece of low-grade heaven essence crystal is 100,000 times more effective than a piece of low-grade spirit stone. If he wanted to buy a mid-grade heaven essence crystal, he would need 10 million low-grade spirit stones. A high-grade heavenly essence crystal requires 1 billion low-grade spirit stones. Even Ling Xiao couldn't afford such a terrifying price, let alone ordinary people. However, the heaven essence crystal was indeed precious. Although it could only be used by Heaven Realm and Grotto Heaven Realm martial artists, it required a rebirth realm martial artist to create a low-grade heaven essence crystal. As for mid-grade and high-grade heaven essence crystals, they couldn't be created purely by manpower. They needed to rely on a special environment. Thank you for the information. Give me a piece of low-grade heaven essence crystal. Ling Xiao didn't want to buy more. He only wanted to buy one to study it. Qinhua, let's go buy a ticket. I want to see what secrets there are on Piping Island. The moment Ling Xiao touched the heaven essence crystal, he made up his mind. Not to mention that he was going to save those slaves. Even if he didn't have this goal, he would still give it a try for the sake of the heaven essence crystal. Cultivation was too important to him right now. Seeing humans being humiliated and bullied by those people. He didn't know when he would become like them. He didn't want that to happen and could only do his best to change everything. And that required strength. The two of you want to go to Piping Island. The captain of the giant ship looked at Ling Xiao and Qinhua and asked, That's right. Ling Xiao nodded. Grotto Heaven Realm martial artists can go for free. Half-step Grotto Heaven Realm martial artists need to pay 10,000 low-grade spirit stones as the ship fare. The fee will double for each lower level of cultivation. The captain said coldly, Can you accept it? Isn't this looting a burning house? Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment. If it was like this, Qinhua didn't need much. He only needed 20,000 low-grade spirit stones. However, he was only a one-line sky realm martial artist. He needed a lot. It was more than 10 million low-grade spirit stones. Don't go if you don't have spirit stones, the captain said indifferently. Ling Xiao smiled and said, Qinhua, you go. I'll think of a way. Ling Xiao couldn't accept this kind of looting a burning house. He had a way to sneak in. Qinhua bought a ticket and boarded the ship. Ling Xiao found a secluded place and used the shadow armor. He then concealed his aura and sneaked into the crowd to board the ship. As long as he boarded the ship, the other party wouldn't be able to do anything to him. After boarding the ship, Ling Xiao asked around and found out that as long as one was a Heaven Realm martial artist, they only needed to pay 10,000 low-grade spirit stones as the ship fare to Piping Island. The captain saw that he was an unfamiliar face, so he did that. It was purely a rip-off. Ling Xiao couldn't help but sneer in his heart. You have a scheme, I have a clever move. You want to take advantage of me? No way. After chatting for a while, Ling Xiao found a secluded place on the ship and began to refine the Heaven Essence Crystal. Heaven Essence Crystal, to put it bluntly, was Heaven Essence energy compressed into a crystal shape. Therefore, it was the purest energy crystal, purer than spirit stones. Unfortunately, this kind of crystal didn't exist in nature. Generally speaking, only after the death of a powerful martial artist would there be a very small chance of producing Heaven Essence Crystal. Then, rebirth realm martial artists could create low-grade Heaven Essence Crystal. Pure Heaven Essence Crystal didn't need to be refined. It could be directly integrated into the heaven veins for use. It was precisely so that it was so expensive. Ling Xiao only used a piece of low-grade Heaven Essence Crystal and let his cultivation advance from one-line Heaven late stage to one-line Heaven peak. This speed made him flabbergasted. Even if he cultivated inside the Heaven Essence Treasure Pagoda, even if he used Heaven Essence Divine Pills, it was also impossible to have such a fast speed. It didn't even take a quarter of an hour. Looks like this trip to Piping Island was really the right choice. He was now a little regretful that he didn't buy more Heaven Essence Crystal just now. At this time, The ship already started, splitting the stormy ocean, heading towards Piping Island. Although the ship was huge, its speed was very fast. It was said that it could reach in 2 hours. Ling Xiao could not help being somewhat expectant. How many heaven essence crystal would there be on Piping Island? It really made people very excited. Chapter 937. After refining the heaven essence crystal, Ling Xiao was really bored, so he wandered around the ship. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in front of him, which gave him a big shock. Cold Plum! He was a little afraid to recognize her. Today's Cold Plum had a cold and noble aura, just like a goddess of death, a female assassin who walked on the edge of a knife. Her pretty face was more mature than before. The girl leaned against the corner of the wall, fiddling with the dagger in her hand. Suddenly, she heard someone calling her and casually looked up. She was full of surprise and excitement, and the dagger in her hand almost fell to the ground. Master! Hearing this shout, many people widened their eyes. This woman sat there, and although she was pretty and refined, she was like a goddess of death, and no one dared to approach her. Many martial artists who thought they were noble went up to strike up a conversation, but the woman automatically ignored them. They were not angry at all, and felt that even if this kind of beauty was angry, even if she scolded them, it was fine. However, they had never imagined that such a noble and cold woman would actually rush to the front of a seemingly insignificant person and call him master. This simply angered them to death. They felt that they had been insulted, whether it was strength or appearance, which part of them was inferior to that kid. However, Ling Xiao did not care about their feelings and hugged Cold Plum tightly in his arms. It really is you. How have you been in the past year? Ling Xiao was a little emotional. He had originally planned to wait until his cultivation was stronger, then go to the Yuehua School's Death Canyon to find Cold Plum. But he did not expect that so many things would happen, so he had no choice but to come to the Divine Phoenix continent to improve his cultivation. Although the two continents were not too far apart, they were separated by the stormy ocean. He thought that he might not see Cold Plum for a long time. He did not expect to meet her here. Fortunately, I have been cultivating all this time, but when I came out, I found out that a lot had happened outside. I heard that Master had come to the Divine Phoenix continent, so I chased after you. The two of them let go, and Cold Plum said with tears in her eyes, "Sit down and talk." Ling Xiao found a clean place and pulled Cold Plum's hand to sit down. "You should have gone to the Imperial City to find me. Why are you here?" "On the way here, I met a friend who helped me a lot. He said he wanted to go to Piping Island. I heard that it was very dangerous there, so I wanted to return the favor. After that, I will go to the Imperial City to find Master." Cold Plum explained. "Oh, what about your friend? I should thank him properly." Ling Xiao smiled. "Shimin, this is the master I told you about, Ling Xiao." Cold Plum looked at the crowd, and a young man walked out. He looked about 35 or 36 years old, and his cultivation was at the peak of 4 symbols. To be able to reach such a level in his 30s, he could be considered a genius. But there was no way he could be considered a super genius. After all, a monster like Ling Xiao, who had reached the peak of one-line sky before the age of 16, would soon catch up to him. "Humph, I thought he was very powerful, but he's just SOSO. Cold Plum, how could you treat such a person as your master?" Shimin Bo sneered. "I won't allow you to insult my master." Cold Plum's expression was a little ugly. "It's okay, Cold Plum. My current cultivation is indeed a little low, but you have already surpassed me by a lot." If Shimin Bo was someone else, Ling Xiao would have slapped him long ago. However, this person had helped Cold Plum before, and he was a grateful person, so he just pretended not to hear the previous words. "Master, I had some fortuitous encounters in the canyon, but even so, my cultivation is only at the mid-stage of 4 symbols." Cold Plum said modestly. Through the eyes of the world, Ling Xiao could see that there was a very powerful energy hidden in Cold Plum's body. This energy was exactly the same as the aura in the Yuehua school's Death Canyon. It seemed that Cold Plum should have received the power of a certain expert, which was why her cultivation improved so quickly. Among martial artists, there was indeed a way to increase one's cultivation in a short period of time. That was, another martial artist would sincerely transfer all of his inner strength to another person through enlightenment. However, this process was very dangerous. It couldn't be said that there was a 90% chance of death, but the success rate was only 30% to 40%, so under normal circumstances, no one dared to do this. Moreover, most of the inner strength after enlightenment would be sealed. After all, it was very difficult for the martial artist's body to withstand it. If Cold Plum wanted to completely convert this person's inner strength into her own, it would take a long time to accumulate. However, Ling Xiao was very happy for her. She was really lucky to have succeeded in enlightenment. He was also happy for himself. It was considered lucky to have such a confidant. Shimin, is this the Cold Plum you mentioned? Her cultivation isn't bad, but why is she so cold? The person who spoke was a girl with a rather outstanding appearance. However, compared to Cold Plum, there was still a big gap. She probably had some kind of intimate relationship with Shimin Bo, otherwise she wouldn't be jealous. Wei Wei, Cold Plum is my friend. You can't say that. Shimin Bo seemed to be interested in Cold Plum, which was why he was hostile to Ling Xiao. At the same time, when Wei Wei scolded Cold Plum, he stood up to protect her. It's a pity that the falling flowers have feelings, but the flowing water has no feelings. Even if you put all your thoughts on her, she might not care about you. Wei Wei snorted coldly and said unhappily, "It's none of your business." Shimin Bo said coldly, then looked at Ling Xiao and said, "You're Cold Plum's friend, so I'll give you a piece of advice. Reaching one-line heaven peak cultivation at the age of 15 or 16 is indeed very impressive and can be considered a super genius. However, a genius only has potential after all. With your strength, going to Piping Island is courting death. It's even more impossible to protect Cold Plum well." His words were very direct, mocking Ling Xiao for wanting to eat swan meat even though his strength was not enough. Many thanks for Brother Shimin's good intentions. However, I'm not afraid of death. Ling Xiao just smiled faintly. Although he was still not a match for the current Four Symbols Heaven martial artists, don't forget that he still had the power of an 8-cauldron human king in his body. There was also the butterfly girl. He even had Qin Hua, a 10 Directions Heaven realm martial artist, by his side. Shimin Bo, who was merely at the peak of Four Symbols Heaven cultivation, was really not taken seriously by him. You don't know what's good for you. Shimin Bo originally wanted to drive away Ling Xiao so that he could take the opportunity to pursue Cold Plum. He had used all kinds of methods to curry favor along the way. However, it was a pity that Cold Plum always kept him at arm's length, which made him very unhappy. Finally having a chance to be alone with her again, he was still thinking about how to make Cold Plum like him. Who knew that Ling Xiao would appear out of nowhere? This made him very unhappy. That brat, my big brother Shimin, is right. Your strength is too weak. You'll be a burden if you go. Why don't you be a follower by my side? Perhaps I can protect you. Wei Wei shouted as if she was angry. Chapter 938. Wei Wei was about 25 or 26 years old, and her cultivation was at the early stage of Four Symbols. Although she was not as good as Cold Plum and Shimin Bo, she was much stronger than Ling Xiao. The meaning of her words was too obvious. If Cold Plum wanted to snatch her man, then she would snatch Cold Plum's man. Of course, her purpose in doing this was to pursue Shimin Bo, because in her opinion, Shimin Bo was better than Ling Xiao in every aspect. This was the standard husband in her heart. Thank you for your kindness, but unfortunately I've always been stubborn and don't like to listen to others' advice. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said, "Can the two of you leave for a while? I have some private matters to discuss with Cold Plum. It's inconvenient for you to be here. Sorry to trouble you, Brother Shimin. Cold Plum also said. Although Shimin Bo was very dissatisfied, he had no choice. He did not want Cold Plum's impression of him to worsen. Walking to the side, Kai Weiwei said with some jealousy, Brother Shimin, how long has it been since you met her? You actually fell in love with that woman. Shimin Bo suddenly pulled Kai Weiwei into his arms and said with a smile, Silly, you and I were betrothed when we were young. How could I bear to abandon you? That woman is just a target for me to hunt. There's a power in her body that moves my heart. Really? Kai Weiwei asked doubtfully. Of course it's true. With that power, I, Shimin Bo, might also break through to the Grotto Heaven realm and even the Yin Yang realm. At that time, I'll be able to command the mystic world. Weiwei, you'll be my most beloved woman. Shimin Bo said excitedly. Brother Shimin, you can definitely do what you want to do. I've never seen you fail since you were young. Kai Weiwei's eyes were glowing, and her heart was completely filled with love. A woman would doll herself up for her lover, and all women hoped to see their man standing at the peak, spreading his name far and wide, and even leaving his name in history. This was a man's glory, and it was also their glory. Kai Weiwei was no exception. But Big Brother Shimin, that woman's cultivation is not much weaker than yours. She also has that man protecting her. It won't be easy to succeed. Knowing Shimin Bo's true objective, Kai Weiwei naturally would not be jealous anymore. Who does that brat think he is? He's not even worth mentioning. As for Cold Plum, although her cultivation isn't much different from mine, her foundation is too weak. It's obvious that she's been imparted to her by someone else. This kind of cultivation is nothing in front of me. Shimin Bo was full of confidence. Kai Weiwei nodded repeatedly. Big Brother Shimin's plans are indeed flawless. You're too amazing. If there's anything you need Weiwei's help with, don't hesitate to ask. Weiwei really wants to see Big Brother Shimin climb to the top of the profound world one day. Thank you, Weiwei. Shimin Bo hugged Kai Weiwei even more tightly, but his face revealed a malevolent expression. He thought to himself, this idiot woman, it's true that I want the power in Cold Plum's body, but in terms of beauty and temperament, you can't compare to Cold Plum at all. Not only do I want that woman's power, I also want her body. As for you, if you're obedient, you can stay by my side as a servant girl. Otherwise, don't even think about living. Kai Weiwei naturally couldn't know what Shimin Bo was thinking. This simple and vicious girl was still having her own sweet dreams. Everyone get ready to disembark. About 2 hours later, the sound of a bugle horn rang out on the ship, followed by the captain's shout. Ling Xiao and the others walked out of the cabin. From here, they could see the full view of Piping Island. This island was really not small, and it was hard to forget at a glance. It was no wonder that it was qualified to be one of the 7 major Marshall Grandmaster Islands. Its status was equivalent to the Divine Phoenix Empire and the Black Crow Empire. Listen up, Piping Island is an important place, so you can't enter without permission. Practitioners with a cultivation level of Avalon of 5 elements and above can enter with an identity token. The rest can only enter through the smuggling tunnel at the bottom of the sea. If anyone is unwilling, you can leave now. Once you enter the sea, you have to listen to my orders. The one who spoke was the first officer, standing beside the captain. This person's cultivation level wasn't too high, only comparable to Shimin Bo's. He belonged to the 4 symbols Heaven Peak. The few people following him were all at the Heaven Peak of 3 talents. Their strength couldn't be underestimated. Even though they didn't know the reason behind this, practitioners with a cultivation level of Avalon of 5 elements and above had already obtained their identity tokens and entered the island. Qin, who also left under Ling Xiao's hint. Splitting up was a good choice. This would help them find the soldiers who were sold here as slaves faster. It would also help them find out the secret of the Sky Essence Crystal. They've all left. It's our turn next, right? It's not a problem even if it's a smuggling tunnel, as long as you don't kill us. Otherwise, even if we die, we'll drag you down with us. The one who spoke was a 4 symbols Heaven Peak practitioner. Among the remaining practitioners, only this person and Shimin Bo had reached the 4 symbols Heaven Peak. The rest of them were inferior to the 2 of them. Of course you won't die, provided that you don't do anything stupid. The first officer said coldly, "Let's go, it's getting late." The smuggling tunnel is much more dangerous than the official one. It's safer to enter Piping Island as soon as possible. After he finished speaking, the first officer turned and left the ship, flying in the other direction of Piping Island. Even though it was still difficult for practitioners of the Heaven Realm to fly, gliding for tens of meters or even hundreds of meters was no longer a problem. "Let's go too." Ling Xiao glanced at Cold Plum and followed. A moment later, everyone arrived near shore. The first officer pointed below and said, "The water flow here leads directly to the interior of Piping Island. However, we might encounter some trouble along the way. As long as everyone doesn't run around and follows the team closely, there won't be any major problems. Otherwise, don't come looking for me even if you die. We don't want to court death." Everyone who came this time wanted to obtain the Sky Essence Crystal. No one was willing to die in vain. They would naturally listen to the first officer's words. Shimin Bo glanced at Cold Plum and said, "Cold Plum, your master's strength isn't up to par. Why don't you stay with us? I can guarantee that he can reach the destination safely." At this moment, Shimin Bo's attitude toward Ling Xiao was slightly better. It was not that he had changed his mind about Ling Xiao. He just wanted to use Ling Xiao and Cold Plum to further improve their friendship. "I appreciate Brother Shimin's good intentions, but danger is the same for everyone. Brother Shimin, just take care of yourself." "I'll be fine," Ling Xiao said lightly. "Why are you so ungrateful? Can't you see that Brother Shimin wants to help you?" Kai Weiwei said with some displeasure. Ling Xiao smiled coldly and did not speak. He understood Shimin Bo's thoughts better than anyone else. After all, in terms of experience, although he was young, he had experienced a lot of things. Shimin Bo was not a kind person. Although he did not know what this guy wanted to do, it was not wrong to be cautious. Chapter 939. "Shimin, I'll protect Masterwell." Cold Plum interjected. She naturally had to side with Ling Xiao. It's better to be safe than sorry. If something really happens, it'll be troublesome." Shimin Bo was unwilling in his heart, but it was not good to show too much. What he was looking forward to the most now was that after entering the shallow sea, some danger would really happen. That way, his opportunity to perform meritorious deeds would come. At that time, who was the grandson and who was the hero would be clear at a glance. Could it be that he was still afraid that Cold Plum would not develop feelings of admiration for him? Wasn't there such a saying, "Beauties love heroes"? Ling Xiao glanced indifferently at Shimin Bo, thinking in his heart that this guy better not do anything excessive. Otherwise, he would definitely let this person know what was called fear. Even without Qinhua by his side, he still had many methods to make Shimin Bo die without a burial ground. Enter the water. The first mate and the 2 people beside him took the lead and jumped into the sea. The rest followed one after another. After entering the water, Ling Xiao discovered that this place actually seemed to have been artificially chiseled out a very large passageway. Even if a ship entered, there would be no problem at all. People walking over was even less of a problem. The danger that the first mate mentioned appeared very quickly. Even though this place was shallow sea, there would still be quite a number of ferocious sea creatures residing here. With so many martial artists swimming through the sea at the same time, it immediately startled the shallow sea monitor lizards residing here. Even though these monitor lizards did not have high intelligence, they possessed powerful electric discharge abilities. The greatest power of their attacks was enough to easily electrocute a 3 talents Heavenly Realm martial artist to death. Even a peak 4 symbols Heavenly Realm martial artist would also be injured, let alone that there was more than one monitor lizard. Generally, both male and female would appear at the same time. If a peak 4 symbol's Heavenly Realm martial artist encountered it, it would also be 9 out of 10 chances to survive. Be careful, try your best to circle around. Don't provoke this guy. It's not good for us. The first mate said calmly. After all, seawater could conduct electricity. Once the monitor lizard released electric current, then all the martial artists in the vicinity would suffer a calamity. What's there to be afraid of? Just kill it. This shallow sea monitor lizard skin is a first-rate material for making leather armor. Its beast core is even a good material for refining medicinal pills. If you guys are afraid, then hide to one side. The opportunity to display his strength had finally arrived. So how could Shiminbo miss it? Although the 2 shallow sea monitor lizards were very dangerous, and ordinary peak 4 symbols martialists would be killed easily if they encountered them, they were still very powerful. However, Shiminbo was no ordinary peak 4 symbols martialist. His strength was much more formidable than many people imagined. He wanted to show it now. Before the first officer could stop him, Shiminbo had already rushed out. Idiot! Someone cursed under his breath. Even if he had the strength, there was no need to waste it here. Although it was impossible to completely avoid the electric current, the further away they were, the weaker the electric current would be. At the very least, they could protect themselves from being seriously injured. Sizzle! The 2 huge lizards discovered Shiminbo pouncing towards them, and their huge eyes suddenly erupted with formidable and terrifying aura. An ominous glint flashed. They were sleeping comfortably here, but this stupid human had to come and disturb them, which made them very angry. You 2 bastards! How dare you disrespect me? Be obedient and accept your death. Shiminbo sneered. He raised his right hand, and a long sword appeared in his hand. It should be an immortal-grade artifact. This sword emitted a strange icy aura that seemed to be able to freeze the nearby seawater. Using an ice attribute weapon in the sea? What is he thinking? Someone looked at this scene in confusion. Everyone knew that ice attribute weapons could easily freeze seawater. In this way, martial arts techniques would definitely not be able to be executed smoothly. However, Shiminbo dared to do this, which was indeed puzzling. Of course, they did not know that Shiminbo was purely putting on a show. He wanted to show Cold Plum that he could still easily kill 2 shallow sea monitor lizards in the most difficult situation. Sizzle! Sizzle! Boom! Crackle! The 2 shallow sea monitor lizards were clearly angered when they saw Shiminbo draw his sword. Hence, they opened their huge mouths at the same time and spat out terrifying lightning. The lightning moved rapidly in the seawater and blasted towards Shiminbo, who was rushing over. The remaining electric current flowed out, causing many martial artists with lower cultivation to look pale. The electric current that flowed out is already so terrifying. How powerful is the electric current that attacked Shiminbo? A martial artist of 2 forms, heaven, cultivation, sighed with emotion. His face was a little pale because he could feel that if he were to fight against one of the shallow sea monitor lizards, even if it was only one, he would definitely die. However, Shiminbo's performance was very strong. Be obedient and accept your death. In the face of the thick lightning, Shiminbo did not stop at all. He brandished the ice attribute long sword in his hand and formed a huge ice shield in front of him. The ice shield blocked the lightning attack. Just as everyone was surprised by his beautiful move, an even more surprising scene appeared. Beside the ice shield in the seawater, a tiny ice mark suddenly appeared and then darted towards one of the monitor lizards at lightning speed. Ice snake sting! Like a real long snake, the ice spike ruthlessly pierced into the head of the monitor lizard. The seawater was instantly dyed blood red. The female monitor lizard was killed by Shiminbo in just one move. The remaining male monitor lizards attacked angrily. It was a pity that it, with its low intelligence, had completely lost its rationality. It attacked randomly, but could not find Shimin Bo's figure at all. When Shimin Bo reappeared, he was standing on the head of the monitor lizard and stabbed his long sword directly. The male monitor lizard let out a sorrowful roar and finally convulsed and died. Interesting. This kid is very strong. Among the crowd, another 4 symbols, heaven martial artist, secretly laughed. Among these people, his cultivation is similar to mine. I didn't expect his combat strength to be no worse than mine. He's really young and promising. This person was much older than Shimin Bo and was estimated to be over 100 years old. He looked a little wretched and belonged to the kind of guy who was obviously not a good person. Seeing that Shimin Bo easily defeated the 2 monitor lizards, Kai Weiwei looked at Ling Xiao and Cold Plum proudly and said, "See, this is my brother Shimin's strength. Don't be fooled by brother Shimin's 4 symbols, heaven, cultivation. Even if he meets a martial artist from the Avalon of 5 elements, he's not afraid at all. Follow him, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's okay," Ling Xiao said faintly. In his opinion, Shimin Bo was indeed stronger than the average 4 symbols heaven martial artist. However, compared to some of the geniuses he had seen, Shimin Bo was still not good enough. For example, the Blood Skull who had a life and death duel with him. Although Ling Xiao was very unhappy with that guy, at the same cultivation level, that guy's performance was definitely much stronger than Shimin Bo's. Chapter 940. Did I hear wrongly? You're just a pinnacle martial artist in one-line sky. Who gave you the confidence to evaluate my big brother Shimin like that? Kai Weiwei was very displeased. This brat called Ling Xiao was truly overestimating his own capabilities. I've said it before. They're just shallow sea lizards. Why are you so afraid? Just kill them. Shimin Bo said proudly as he sheathed his sword. Although this person's actions are displeasing, his strength is not to be underestimated. That's right. He fought 2 shallow sea lizards head-on with a pinnacle 4 symbols cultivation base and defeated them so easily. I'm afraid it's very difficult for others of the same cultivation base to do so. There are too many factors that affect combat strength at the same cultivation base, including the soul, the strength of the body, the level of martial arts, and so on. This Shimin Bo is definitely one of the best. Although most of the crowd was displeased with Shimin Bo's provocation of the shallow sea lizards, they all praised Shimin Bo's strength. Powerhouses were powerhouses. Wherever they went, they would receive the respect of others. There were many pretty girls in the crowd. They all looked at Shimin Bo with infatuation, as if they wished that this man was their boyfriend. Since this brother has already cleaned up the shallow sea lizards, let's continue on our journey. The first mate only glanced at Shimin Bo indifferently, and the corners of his mouth seemed to curl up into a sneer. However, it was fleeting and no one noticed. The team continued on, and the tense atmosphere in the crowd seemed to have been washed away by the previous battle. Shimin Bo became the subject of everyone's discussion. He was simply like a hero. He was only in his 30s, but his cultivation base and strength were at the top of this group. Naturally, he would receive the attention of countless people. Shimin Bo looked at Ling Xiao and Cold Plum, as if he wanted to find an expression of admiration on their faces. However, he was disappointed. Although Ling Xiao and Cold Plum were talking, the topic of their discussion seemed to have nothing to do with him. Moreover, the 2 of them were very close to each other, as if they were discussing something private. This made him even more unhappy. He couldn't understand why Cold Plum would take a fancy to Ling Xiao when his performance was so dazzling. Originally, he had planned to use Ling Xiao to get closer to Cold Plum, but now he suddenly realized that Ling Xiao was definitely a problem between him and Cold Plum. If he didn't get rid of Ling Xiao, he wouldn't have the chance to be alone with Cold Plum. Everyone be careful. After walking for a while, they were about to reach their destination. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in front of them. At first, everyone thought that it was a light, but when they heard the first mate shout, they realized that it was the fear leech. The difference between fear leeches and normal leeches was that they were larger in size. Each of them was the size of an adult mouse, and their ability to suck blood was terrifying. The most terrifying thing was that it could almost completely penetrate a heaven realm martial artist's protective heaven elemental energy in an instant, and then enter the martial artist's body, sucking the martial artist's internal energy and blood dry. Of course, if it were just one or two fear leeches, it wouldn't pose too much of a threat. The key was that it wasn't just one or two, but a group of thousands, densely packed with a strange metallic luster. This scale was simply a disaster for martial artists below 4 symbols heaven realm cultivation. Even 4 symbols heaven realm martial artists might die tragically on the spot. Chance. Shimin Bo saw these fear leeches and couldn't help but be surprised. With his strength, he was still fearful of this group of fear leeches, let alone Ling Xiao, who was only a one-line heaven martial artist. Although the fear leeches' bodies were very soft and could be crushed easily, this kind of creature had a great characteristic, and that was that it was very difficult to kill. As long as there was still a part of its body, it would quickly split into many smaller fear leeches, which were equally terrifying. Hence, under normal circumstances, heaven realm martial artists would try their best to avoid this kind of creature. However, Shimin Bo took the initiative to rush forward and blocked in front of Cold Plum. He said righteously, "Cold Plum, I'm here. You don't have to worry." The leading first mate anxiously took out an item from his storage ring and threw it out. It seemed to be a piece of refining array stone. Ling Xiao was very familiar with this kind of thing. After the refining array stone was thrown out, it formed a strange whirlpool. Most of the fear leeches were directly sucked into this whirlpool. However, there were still too many fear leeches. There were still many that bypassed the whirlpool and charged towards the crowd. In just a blink of an eye, dozens of the hundreds of martial artists died. These dead martial artists' bodies were shriveled up like raisins that were dried under the sun. Shimin Bo blocked in front of Cold Plum. When the fear leeches came over, he suddenly dodged and grabbed at Cold Plum, preparing to escape with Cold Plum. He wanted to let the large number of fear leeches kill Ling Xiao. "Hurry up and leave. I can't block it anymore." Luckily, he didn't forget to put on an act at this time. He pretended to be in a difficult position. "Brother Ling, you should run too." However, the sneer at the corner of his mouth completely betrayed him. This guy really couldn't wait for Ling Xiao to die. That was why he thought of such a vicious method. However, what made him furious was Cold Plum didn't leave. She would rather die with Ling Xiao than live an ignoble life. Behind her, the beautiful plum blossom bloomed and turned into countless petals that shot out. A large number of fear leeches fell under the attack of the plum blossom. Moreover, once attacked by the petals, the fear leeches would instantly rot and die. There was no way for them to regenerate. Seeing this, Shimin Bo was both furious and surprised. He was furious that Cold Plum was already in such a state and still wanted to die with Ling Xiao. He was surprised that Cold Plum's strength was really more powerful than he imagined. However, this was nothing. With Cold Plum's strength, it was better if she didn't die. It was fine as long as Ling Xiao died. It was a pity that when he looked at Ling Xiao, his jaw almost dropped from his mouth. Ling Xiao stood there and didn't move at all. His body actually emitted a strange red sunlight. Any fear leeches that touched this light would be instantly roasted and turned into ashes. In just a short moment, hundreds of fear leeches had died under the net. It was like moths flying into a flame, seeking their own destruction. Damn it, I really underestimated this kid. Shimin Bo's vicious plan that he made while risking being hated by Cold Plum actually failed instantly. This made him gnash his teeth in hatred. "Brother Shimin, that Ling Xiao seems to be more powerful than we imagined. The light on his body is strange." Kai Weiwei said nervously, "I'm not blind." Shimin Bo said coldly, "However, it's fine. It's just some strange tricks. In terms of cultivation, there's a huge difference between us. He's not my match at all. With his defense, although he can block the fear leeches in front of me, he can't even withstand a single blow. Chapter 941. The whirlpool created by the alchemy formation stone grew larger and larger, eventually swallowing all the fear leeches. In addition to the fear leeches killed by the other warriors, the mighty army of fear leeches was completely annihilated. Was that an alchemy formation stone? Ling Xiao couldn't help but ask, "Oh, you're an expert. You can actually recognize the alchemy formation stone." "That's right. It's specially used to deal with the fear leeches. We often take this route. If we didn't have such a thing to protect ourselves, we would have been killed by these monsters long ago." The alchemy formation stone smiled and explained, "But don't worry, everyone. After this, there won't be any other danger. We can reach the inner part of Piping Island. Whether or not we can get the Heaven Essence crystal will depend on your own abilities." Everyone was originally discouraged and had low morale. After all, they had lost close to 100 people in this battle. They were all warriors of the Celestial Realm. In the Heavenly Dragon Continent, warriors of the Celestial Realm were inner sect elders of a sect. Even though the Celestial Realm warriors of the Divine Phoenix Continent weren't that valuable, losing so many of them in one go still made one's heart ache. It was also quite frightening. But after hearing the alchemy formation stone, everyone became excited again. After going through so many difficulties, there was finally a reward. "Master, something doesn't seem right." Cold Plum whispered to Ling Xiao when they were about to set off again. Yes, according to common sense, the alchemy formation stone shouldn't be taken out by the first mate. With his ability, he could have escaped with his life. If these people died here, they would have completed their mission. There's no need to bring everyone in safely. After all, it's normal for people to die in the smuggling process. Ling Xiao nodded and said, "I suspect that there's something strange about this. They separated the warriors of the Avalon of 5 elements from us in order to weaken our abilities. Then what should we do? Should we continue to follow?" Cold Plum asked. "Let's follow. Even if it's a mountain of daggers or a sea of flames, we still have to go. After all, we're just speculating. We can't prove that this is a trap. Follow me closely later. If anything happens, I'll think of a solution." Ling Xiao replied. Although Ling Xiao's cultivation was not as good as Cold Plum's, Cold Plum felt that Ling Xiao's words were very reliable. She felt that following Ling Xiao would be very safe. "Yes, master." Cold Plum nodded. "And that Shimin Bo, he's not a good person. You won't object to me killing him, right?" Ling Xiao suddenly asked. The reason why he didn't make a move when Shimin Bo plotted against him was because he wanted to give face to Cold Plum. "It's true that Shimin Bo helped me, but I've already repaid all the favors that I owed him. If he wants to harm you, I'll definitely kill him with my own hands. If you want to do it yourself, I naturally won't object." Cold Plum said solemnly, "With your words, it's fine. Let's continue. I'll let him go this time. If he continues to be stubborn, I'll definitely kill him." Ling Xiao didn't want to make things difficult for Cold Plum, so he didn't make a move. After a while, the team in front stopped. "We've reached our destination," the first mate said happily. From here, they could clearly see that there was a man-made canal in front of them. Through this canal, they should be able to enter a building. As for whether it was Piping Island or not, they didn't know. "Follow closely, don't get separated." The first mate walked into the canal first. Although the people behind were a little hesitant, they had already come this far. Thinking about the fear leeches that they had encountered before, it wasn't very possible for them to turn back. They might as well accept their fate. Most of the people followed in. However, there were some who were more cunning. They were afraid that something unexpected would happen, so they walked to the back of the team. For example, Ling Xiao and that wretched old man. The moment they entered the canal, Ling Xiao knew that his guess was right. This was definitely a trap, a huge trap, because he sensed that the entrance to the canal was actually the entrance to a large-scale formation. Once they entered, they would definitely not be able to return along the original path. Not only that, inside this building that was filled with ancient aura, there were actually countless terrifying formations and formations that even Ling Xiao couldn't see through. It was really too difficult to get out of this place. This wasn't Piping Island at all. They were afraid that they had really been deceived. Cold Plum, be careful. Something's not right here. Ling Xiao grabbed Cold Plum's hand. He was prepared to immediately escape if there was any unforeseen event. He definitely wouldn't take the risk. After all, their lives were the most important. Cold Plum's pretty face was slightly red. She silently nodded and followed beside Ling Xiao. Shimin Bo's veins were popping out. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Ha ha ha, well done. This is your commission. After walking for a while, an ancient martial art practitioner wearing metal armor suddenly appeared. This person's ability wasn't too strong. He was also at the peak of 4 Symbols Heaven. However, he was considered the top among this group of ancient martial art practitioners. His words were directed at the first mate and the other 2. He also transferred some spirit stones from his storage ring. The people of Piping Island are indeed straightforward. We will continue to send ancient martial art practitioners over in the future. Goodbye. The first mate and the other 2 sneered as they looked at the ancient martial art practitioners behind them. They revealed a mocking expression. What's going on? Some people still didn't understand the meaning of this scene. Still don't understand? We have been sold just like those slaves. Ling Xiao said coldly. What? After Ling Xiao's reminder, everyone came to their senses. No wonder they felt that something was wrong. They had actually been sold to do manual labor. They couldn't control the ancient martial art practitioners with a higher level of cultivation in the Avalon of 5 elements. Hence, they had specially selected the ancient martial art practitioners with a lower level of cultivation. What smuggling channel? They had simply been sold. Ha ha ha, you have guessed correctly. From now on, you are all slaves of Piping Island. If you work hard, you can still live. Otherwise, don't even think of leaving alive. The ancient martial art practitioner in armor laughed heartily. Goodbye, a bunch of idiots. The first mate smiled at everyone and turned to leave. Where are you going? Leave your life behind. Although the wretched old man looked wretched, his ability wasn't weak among these ancient martial art practitioners. When he heard this, he immediately pounced forward, wanting to make the first mate stay behind. No matter what the outcome was, he had to drag someone down with him. He couldn't suffer for nothing. Bang! Unexpectedly, when he pounced forward, he was punched down by the ancient martial art practitioner in metal armor. Although they had the same level of cultivation, he was beaten up badly. That armor is strange. It shouldn't have been made by modern, ancient martial art practitioners. There are divine writings from the primordial era on it. It should be able to strengthen one's combat power. After all, Ling Xiao was a formation master. He was very familiar with formations and magic formations. Damn it, I don't believe in heresy. Let's attack together and kill this bastard. The rest of the ancient martial art practitioners were furious. Although they weren't as powerful as the wretched old man, they had the advantage in numbers. They couldn't possibly be frightened by a mere 4 symbols, peak ancient martial art practitioner. Chapter 942. The angry warriors wanted to rely on their numbers to defeat the armored man. However, no matter how many of them jumped out, they were blasted back. One by one, they fell to the ground, groaning. How is this possible? Everyone was shocked and could not understand. Even if the armor had the effect of increasing combat power, it could not be so heaven-defying. Hundreds of Heaven Realm practitioners attacked at the same time without any effect. Instead, they were injured. Don't waste your energy. That armor is not an ordinary magic treasure. It is a part of this enormous primordial formation. Don't look down on this person's low cultivation. He can borrow the power of the entire primordial formation. If you are of the same cultivation, no matter how many of you come, you will not be able to defeat him. Ling Xiao said loudly, unless you are a practitioner with a higher cultivation than him, you will be able to break this trap. Otherwise, you will be able to break the primordial formation and steal his armor. No wonder these fellows did not allow the practitioners of the Avalon of 5 elements to come. They were already on guard against our resistance. Damn it. Ha ha ha, a bunch of idiots. You guys can enjoy yourselves here. We will take our leave first. The first mate did not leave just now. Instead, he stood there and watched them make a fool of themselves. You really like to see these people in pain and helplessness. You have a dark heart. The armored man laughed. That's right. I like to see them struggle to no avail. The first mate did not evade his thoughts. Is that so? Perhaps you have done all the bad things today. You should be punished. Ling Xiao revealed a cold smile. Playing formations with him was no different from showing off in front of an expert. Even though the primordial formation here was very powerful, the people here did not fully understand it. Therefore, Ling Xiao could still find loopholes in it. Even though these loopholes were not enough for him to escape, he could still kill the first mate who had framed them. You! Before he could finish his sentence, the first mate suddenly found a beautiful plum blossom mark on his throat. Then, with an expression of disbelief, he lay on the ground facing the sky. This was a joint attack by Ling Xiao and Cold Plum. Cold Plum's strength and Ling Xiao's knowledge were a perfect combination. One was searching for loopholes in their ray formation while the other was attacking. Cold Plum was a late stage for Phenomenon's celestial being, while the first mate was a peak stage for Phenomenon's celestial being. Both of them were killed when they were caught off guard. It was only logical. As for the first mate's 2 helpers, they didn't escape the fate of death either. Both of their chests had a strange hole that looked like it had been drilled by a large awl and blood was flowing out. It was naturally Ling Xiao's shadow awl. Coming without a shadow, leaving without a trace, killing 2 martial artists with 3 talents heaven cultivation was still very easy. The armored man stared at Ling Xiao for a moment before bursting into laughter. It seems like I have underestimated you all, especially you little brat, he said. Did you leave a mark on them from the beginning? That's right. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Since he suspected that the first mate was up to something, he had to make some preparations. Therefore, he engraved his soul imprint on the first mate and the other 2. This was also one of the reasons why his attack could reach its target in one go. Pa pa pa! The armored man clapped his hands and said, How did you sense that there was something wrong with him? It's very simple. From the moment we entered the canal, I knew that we couldn't get out and were trapped here. There's a special ancient formation confining us here. I guess the way to leave should be in the hands of your piping island, right? Ling Xiao asked back. Amazing. Really amazing. If it wasn't for your weak cultivation, I would have thought that you were some great senior disguised as an expert. The armored man really admired Ling Xiao. You flatter me. In the end, I still found out too late. If I had known about your plan earlier, I'm afraid it wouldn't be like this. Fortunately, at least I dragged someone down with me. It was worth it. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Oh, you knew about our plan? The armored man was even more surprised. It's actually nothing much. As far as I know, the production of heaven essence crystals is extremely difficult. It requires a special environment to produce them. From the moment I entered this place, I understood. You need so many heaven realm martial artists as slaves and us. You want us to produce heaven essence crystals for you, right? Ling Xiao said coldly. Ha ha ha, what a pity. What a pity. You're an outsider and not a member of our piping island. Otherwise, I would really want to be friends with you. You're right, but so what? Once you enter here, you don't even have the right to die. You have to become our slaves. The armored man laughed and said, No, to be precise, you'll become our livestock. However, the livestock will produce eggs and the livestock will produce meat. You have to use your own Tianyuan chi to produce Tianyuan crystal stone for us. Bastard. The warriors were furious, but they couldn't do anything about it. Facing the armored man, they couldn't do anything. Hee, you still have the strength to curse now. Later, you'll become our livestock obediently. Ha! After the armored man finished speaking, he crossed his arms in front of his chest and waited there. After a while, a group of people arrived. They were all wearing armor, and their strength was much weaker than the armored man. They were only in the 3 talents heaven realm. Take them away, the armored man ordered. Yes, Captain. As they walked, the armored man said, In fact, our piping island is very open-minded. This is a land of treasures. Because of the ancient array formation, Heaven Realm and Grotto Heaven Realm martial artists can create their own Heaven Essence crystals. As long as you create enough Heaven Essence crystals and give them to Piping Island, you can leave. We can leave? Someone asked in surprise. Yes, when you produce at least 100,000 lower-grade Tianyuan crystal stone or the same amount of middle-grade Tianyuan crystal stone, you can leave safely. When the armored man said this, his face was full of ridicule. How many Heaven Essence crystal stones can martial artists with our cultivation level produce in a month? Ling Xiao asked. A one-line Heaven Realm warrior can produce 1 Tianyuan crystal stone a month. Although your cultivation is not very good, I feel that your Tianyuan crystal stone is very rich. You should be able to produce 10 Tianyuan crystal stone a month. The armored man thought for a while and said, 10 Tianyuan crystal stone a month. That's more than 3,000 Tianyuan crystal stone a year. Even if I don't hand it over to you, I won't be able to reach the goal in 30 years. Ling Xiao frowned and said, Are you playing with us? Yes, I am playing with you. So what? I just want to tell you that once you're here, don't think about leaving because there's no chance. The armored man looked at Ling Xiao with disdain and said, Hateful, this piping island is actually so sinister. Who asked us to be so stupid to be fooled? Damn it, this is ruined. The martial artists were furious. But when they recalled the scene of the armored man attacking them, they wilted. Especially Shimin Bo. He was so high-spirited and proud before. But after knowing that he was fooled, he became completely listless. During this time, he did not harass Ling Xiao. Chapter 943. Let me tell you, all the Heaven Essence crystals produced every month must be handed over. Whoever dares to hide a piece will definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Lock them up in the 2nd circle. Remember, don't starve, or else they won't have the energy to create wealth for us. Finished speaking, the armored man turned and left. Here, everyone was raised like livestock in the human circle. Although they definitely wouldn't starve, they ate things that only livestock would eat. Even so, they still had to work hard. If they dared to slack off, they would receive the most severe punishment. The so-called being able to leave before was simply bullshit. If you had to hand over all the Heaven Essence crystals, it was simply impossible to gather enough to leave. Not to mention 30 years. You could forget about leaving for your entire life. This was really like keeping people in captivity like livestock. Clang! The door to the 2nd circle was opened. The martial artists were roughly pushed in, not giving them a chance to protest at all. While the other martial artists were cursing, Ling Xiao grabbed Cold Plum's hand and observed the surrounding situation. The 2nd circle was much larger than imagined. It occupied a total of several tens of thousands of acres. The slaves here were also close to several tens of thousands. All of them were martial artists from one-line heaven to 4 symbols Heaven Realm. It seemed like this was pre-selected. What made Ling Xiao feel strange was that other than the majority of the slaves painstakingly producing Heaven Essence crystals, there was actually a small group of people chatting and eating. He suddenly thought of those prison bullies in the prison. How similar were they to these people? Piping Island, probably, in order to be able to rule over each circle, specially selected a portion of the slaves to be the leaders. letting them help manage the rest of the slaves and giving them special treatment. Of course, it was also possible that they weren't selected, but that these slaves finally stood out after internal competition and elimination. After all, the cultivation of these privileged slaves wasn't weak. At the very least, they were slightly stronger than the other slaves. Ha ha, another bunch of idiots. Don't say that. Weren't we also tricked by those guys from Piping Island? Not only Piping Island, it's said that this place is jointly managed by Piping Island and Divine Phoenix Empire. Otherwise, do you think Divine Phoenix Empire would let them do as they please? That's right. I've heard about this as well. F***CK. 2 Empire-level forces joining hands to trick us heaven-tier martial artists. Aren't they giving us too much face? Many slaves in the second circle stopped what they were doing and looked at Ling Xiao and the others who had just entered the second circle. His tone was filled with anger and helplessness. Of course, there was also a trace of schadenfreude. After all, if he was unlucky, he hoped that others would be unlucky as well. Master, this Divine Phoenix Empire and Piping Island really don't look as open and above board as they do on the surface. Cold Plum said in a low voice, with the alliance of the 2 great forces, the martial artists here can forget about leaving. When I just came in, I already observed. There are a total of 5 human circles here. According to the calculation of over 10,000 martial artists in each human circle, 5 human circles would be over 50,000 people. These are all heaven-tier martial artists. 50,000, that's too terrifying. Ling Xiao lamented. Back then, if the sacred dynasty had 50,000 heaven-tier martial artists joining forces, the True Devil Empire wouldn't have been able to annex so much territory so easily. I wonder how long they've been here. Do we really have to stay here forever? Cold Plum said worriedly. This servant doesn't care, but Master, you have to establish a grand undertaking. If we want to go out, we must go out together. If we can't even overcome this little difficulty, what grand undertaking is there to talk about? The reason why Ling Xiao was confident in his heart was because he had grasped the method of refining arrays, which was a huge advantage. What's more, he discovered that many martial artists in the second circle seemed to have been here for a long time. Perhaps it was a few years, decades, or even hundreds of years. These people all had numb faces and no longer cared about anything else. Their pupils had lost focus, as if they were walking corpses. That was because they were desperate. They knew that they couldn't go out and fight against Piping Island. However, once Ling Xiao gave them hope, these people would probably turn into ferocious beasts and devour Piping Island. Ling Xiao was not a person who would suffer losses. Since Piping Island dared to treat him like this, he naturally had to let them know how powerful he was. However, he still had to plan carefully on how to do it. Of course, before that, he had to make good use of this place. Because of the immemorial array, this place could produce Tianyuan crystals. This array was so complex that even the current mountain river martial soul could not analyze it thoroughly. Therefore, it was basically impossible for Ling Xiao to imitate it. Therefore, he had to seize the time to stay here and use the Tianyuan crystals to improve his cultivation. In this way, he would be more confident in the life and death battle with the Blood Skull in a month's time. Hey, all of you, come over here and stand properly. Just as Ling Xiao was thinking about what to do next, a rough voice suddenly rang out. Ling Xiao found that the speaker was one of the people who had just been eating and drinking. This person looked righteous, but one could not judge a book by its cover. It was too naive and stupid to judge a person based on his appearance. The warriors who had entered the second circle all came over. Although this person's attitude was not very good, it was not a bad thing to listen to what he had to say. Hee, you're all quite obedient. That's good. Listen, there are no supervisors here, but it doesn't mean that you can be lazy. Piping Island has a rule that warriors with 1-line heaven cultivation have to hand in at least 1 Tianyuan crystal every month. Yin-Yang heaven warriors have to hand in 2 Tianyuan crystals. If you can't reach this number, you'll be punished. This punishment will definitely make you wish you were dead, but you wish you were dead. Of course, if you make enough Tianyuan crystals, you can't keep them for yourself. You have to hand them all over. When the time comes, our boss will send people to collect all the Tianyuan crystals. Don't forget to calculate according to the natural month. You're lucky. Today is the second day of the month. You still have a long time to prepare. If you came at the end of the month, you'd be in trouble. You'll be punished. Piping Island doesn't care if you're a newcomer. You have to hand in the Tianyuan crystals at the end of the month. Also, the management here is a little humane. If you perform well enough, you can live in a better place and eat human food. By the way, there's a very important point that I almost forgot to mention. Don't even think about using the Tianyuan crystals you made yourself. Once you refine the Tianyuan crystals here, you'll be detected by the manager. Naturally, you'll be punished and have all the Tianyuan crystals deducted. That's all. Hurry up and go make more Tianyuan crystals. Those caves are where you live. The method to make Tianyuan crystals is written on the walls. Chapter 944. Ling Xiao turned his head and looked at the densely packed cave. The entrance of the cave was not big, and the cave was very shallow. Moreover, it was very dirty. Almost all eating, drinking, and defecating had to be done here. This was really exactly the same as the management of livestock. Ling Xiao and Cold Plum simply opened up 2 caves and cleaned them up before settling down. No one cared about this matter. It seemed that the manager and the leader of the second circle were more concerned about the Heaven Essence crystal. They did not care about anything else at all. Since no one cared, Ling Xiao and Cold Plum were happy to be free. The 2 of them took out the things they needed to sleep in from their storage rings. Then they decorated the cave and learned the method of making Heaven Essence crystal according to the wall. It would be a pity if they did not try to make Heaven Essence crystal here. However, a one-line heaven cultivator could only make 1 Heaven Essence crystal in a month under normal circumstances. Martial artists with 4 symbols cultivation could produce 4 pieces of Heavenly Essence crystal stones in a month. Cold Plum was considered to be more outstanding. She spent 3 days to make 1 Heaven Essence crystal. According to this calculation, she could make about 10 Heaven Essence crystals in a month, which was 6 more than an ordinary 4 symbols heaven cultivator. Master, I wonder if what that person said a few days ago was true. Is it true that we can't use Heaven Essence crystals here? Cold Plum asked. He's right. I've already observed. There's a special array here. Once we use Heaven Essence crystals, there will be energy fluctuations. The people outside will know very soon. Ling Xiao nodded. Do we have to hand over all the extra Heaven Essence crystals? What a pity. Cold Plum was a little unwilling. Haha, Cold Plum, you've been missing for so long. I'm afraid you don't know that I've mastered the method of refining arrays. A few days ago, when I was cleaning up the cave, I've already set up a small array here. It can avoid detection. So, there's no problem for the 2 of us to use Heaven Essence crystals here. Ling Xiao smiled. As expected of Master, you're really amazing. Those people probably wouldn't even dream of it. Cold Plum was really surprised, and she admired Ling Xiao even more. That's right, Master. I'll definitely be able to produce 6 more Heaven Essence crystals in a month. I'll give them all to you. You're only at 1 line sky now, so you won't be able to produce too many Heaven Essence crystals. Hearing this, Ling Xiao chuckled and opened his hand. 3 Heaven Essence crystals appeared in his hand. Heavens, Master, how did you do it? A 1-line sky martial artist can actually produce 3 Heaven Essence crystals in 3 days. Cold Plum couldn't help but be surprised. Most importantly, Ling Xiao's performance was simply too shocking. One had to know that an ordinary 1-line sky martial artist could only produce 1 Heaven Essence crystal every month. Ling Xiao was actually able to produce 30 times more than them. Just how terrifying was his Heavenly Essence energy. This is just a small matter. Let's cultivate first. When my cultivation rises to 2 elements heaven, I'll go out and take a look. Ling Xiao smiled and picked up a heaven essence crystal and began cultivating. Speaking of which, this heaven essence crystal was indeed miraculous. Although it was made by martial artists, the heaven essence crystal contained within was much more than the heaven essence crystal that martial artists could cultivate in the same amount of time. Ling Xiao guessed that this might have something to do with the special environment causing the spiritual energy from the outside world to mix in and condense into heaven essence crystal. However, he wasn't very clear about what was going on. Fortunately, this question wasn't important. He just needed to concentrate on cultivating now. On the other side, Cold Plum also began cultivating. The 2 of them didn't plan to keep the heaven essence crystal because Ling Xiao had a way to get out. He just needed to raise his cultivation a little more. About 2 hours later, Ling Xiao realized that the heaven essence crystal in the second cauldron of his 9 cauldrons heaven vein had appeared. This was the sign of breaking through to the early stage of 2 elements heaven, and at this time he had only used 2 heaven essence crystals. Cold Plum was still cultivating and didn't stop. Ling Xiao originally planned to continue cultivating for a while, but suddenly heard an intense commotion outside. He opened his eyes of the world and looked over. He discovered that outside a cave not far from his cave, there was a group of people shouting about something. Inside the cave was a late-stage heaven tier, 3 talents martial artist. At this time, his face was filled with dejection and despair. There's still a lot of time left in this month. I've worked so hard for so many days and only managed to make 1 heaven essence crystal. If I give it to you now, how am I going to report to the administrator? I don't want to be punished. That hell-like feeling is something I don't want to experience again. Cut the crap. Don't think that we don't know. You tried to use the heaven essence crystal to cultivate just now, right? There's already an energy fluctuation coming out. Since you have such an idea, you must hand over all the heaven essence crystals. Otherwise, you'll still be punished. The one who spoke was actually the righteous-looking, middle-aged man from the other day. At this time, this person simply looked like a bandit. Other than him, the martial artists who ate and drank with him that day were all behind him. When these people joined forces, their strength wasn't weak. You guys are simply too much of a bully. Although I had such an idea, I didn't use the heaven essence crystal to cultivate in the end. It's not a violation at all. The administrator didn't say anything. Bully? I'm bullying idiots like you. To tell you the truth, the administrator has to manage you idiots through us. We're the bosses here. We're the kings. The middle-aged man laughed loudly. After speaking, he directly ordered his subordinates to snatch the heaven essence crystal. Just a single heaven essence crystal was snatched away by this group of people. The celestial realm martial artist in the cave cried out loud. It wasn't that he was weak, but if he couldn't use the heaven essence crystal to cultivate in this place, his cultivation couldn't increase. Then he would forever be a subordinate and live a cowardly life. It was better to die. Just as Ling Xiao was about to retract his gaze, that person actually placed his hand on his forehead, and then laughed maniacally as he passed away from this world. Sigh. Ling Xiao sighed. This martial artist's psychological quality was a little too weak. A bad life was better than a good death. Who knew when there would be a chance to escape? It really wasn't worth it to die just like that. This scene also made Ling Xiao confirm his thoughts. Inciting the slaves to riot here was definitely a promising future. The boss of the second circle was Heavenly Venerable Leech. It was said that his martial soul was the fearsome leech. His cultivation had already reached the peak of 4 divisions and was only a step away from breaking through to the Avalon of 5 elements. Therefore, Heavenly Venerable Leech hadn't appeared these days. He was in seclusion to cultivate. The slaves here hated and feared Heavenly Venerable Leech. As long as Ling Xiao got rid of this guy, he would definitely rally to his call. Therefore, in the following days, Ling Xiao did three things. First, he used the Eye of the World to observe the magic arrays and formations here and analyze how to break them. Second, he made heaven essence crystals. Third, he raised his cultivation. These last two things actually complemented each other. Heaven essence crystals were very helpful in raising one's cultivation. There was no doubt about this. Chapter 9:45. In the blink of an eye, 20 days had passed. Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through from the heaven of two elements to the heaven of tri-talent. Cold Plum's cultivation had also broken through to the Avalon of 5 elements. Heaven essence crystals were indeed powerful. Even low-grade heaven essence crystals could greatly increase one's cultivation speed. However, after reaching 4 divisions, the improvement would be slower. This was also why Cold Plum had only broken through to the Avalon of 5 elements after cultivating for so many days. As for Ling Xiao, this fellow was a monster. Compared to him, it was infuriating. Today is the 22nd. There's not much time left until the end of this month. I have to return to the Divine Phoenix Empire's imperial city before the end of the month. Otherwise, the Blood Skull will laugh at me for not daring to accept the challenge. Ling Xiao had already used up all the heaven essence crystals in his possession. He did not want to continue staying here. After his cultivation had reached the heaven of tri-talent, the effects of low-grade heaven essence crystals had become almost negligible. Even his breakthrough from the heaven of 2 elements to the heaven of tri-talent was successful because of the heaven's spirit elixir. It was obvious that the difficulty of breaking through each realm was higher than others. Since the effects of low-grade heaven essence crystals had become weaker and the time was almost up, there was no need for him to continue staying here. It was time to leave. Cold Plum had also used up all her heaven essence crystals. The two of them had no intention of handing over heaven essence crystals to Piping Island. After 20 days of observation, Ling Xiao had already found the loophole in the formation here. If he wanted to leave now, there would definitely be no problem. However, before he left, he had to let Piping Island have a taste of its own medicine. Moreover, Qin Hua's subordinates had not been found yet. The two of them walked out of the cave and prepared to act according to plan. They would first start a riot in Circle 2 and get rid of Heavenly Venerable Leech. Outside the cave, the same story was playing out. Heavenly Venerable Leech's subordinates were forcing Shimin Bo and Kai Weiwei to hand over the Heaven Essence crystals. Shimin Bo at this moment was no longer as high-spirited as before. His hair was a mess, and he looked no different from a pitiful beggar. I beg you, I will hand over the Heaven Essence crystals after this month, okay? We really don't have much left. Shimin Bo even knelt on the ground to beg the other party. And this Empyrean Leech's subordinate's cultivation was even lower than his. He was only at the early stage of 4 symbols heaven. Kai Weiwei was also kneeling at the side, crying and begging for mercy. She didn't know if her man was still so wise and mighty in her heart. However, Ling Xiao didn't care about this matter. He didn't have the slightest sympathy for Shimin Bo. If it wasn't for Cold Plum, he would have already killed this guy. How could he have allowed this guy to live until now? Bang! Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinate kicked Shimin Bo's face and scolded, "Idiot, listen carefully. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Hurry up and hand over all the Heaven Origin crystals you've produced so far. Shimin Bo, isn't your dignity too worthless? You're being bullied by someone with a lower cultivation than you, and you don't even dare to resist?" Cold Plum could not help but shout. After all, Shimin Bo had helped her before. She really didn't want to see him like this. What do you know? A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Heavenly Venerate Leech's strength is definitely not something you can imagine. Shimin Bo shrieked, "Don't laugh at me. In a while, you will obediently hand over the Heaven Origin crystals like me. No one dares to be violent in front of Heavenly Venerate Leech. He's an expert from the Avalon of 5 elements. Avalon of 5 elements? Haha, I thought it was a grotto heaven realm expert. You're so scared that you've lost your knees. Do you still have balls? Are you still a man? Ling Xiao frowned. When this Shimin Bo bullied the weak, he was completely high and mighty. Why was it that when he encountered a slightly stronger opponent, he would directly become scared like a dog? He's not a man, but neither are you. Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinate said to Ling Xiao and Cold Plum after snatching all the heaven origin crystals from Shimin Bo and Kai Weiwei. I'm not a man to begin with, Cold Plum muttered. Cough, cough. I'm talking about him. Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinate pointed at Ling Xiao and said, no matter what, hurry up and hand over all the heaven origin crystals. Otherwise, you'll be in for it. Are you even worthy of speaking to me? Get your Heavenly Venerate Leech to come out and answer me. Otherwise, I'll make sure you get nothing. Ling Xiao said coldly. He was looking for trouble now. Naturally, he wouldn't give Heavenly Venerate Leech any face. You're crazy. Shimin Bo jumped in fright when he heard Ling Xiao's words. He pulled Kai Weiwei and ran far away, as if afraid that Ling Xiao's madness would infect them. Many other experts also hid in caves or in the dark, not daring to show their faces. It seemed like they all thought that Ling Xiao was crazy. If he wasn't crazy, he wouldn't have rashly provoked Heavenly Venerate Leech. Ha! It's not like I haven't seen an arrogant brat like you. Once our Heavenly Venerate Leech comes, you'll have to talk to King Yama. Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinate sneered. Hurry up and hand over the heaven origin crystals obediently. Perhaps you can keep your life. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. As he spoke, he waved his hand. Many of Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinates came over and surrounded Ling Xiao and Cold Plum. It's over. Those 2 idiots. I knew it would be like this. Do you think it's fun to play the hero? What a brainless idiot. Shimin Bo, who was hiding in the dark, muttered. He was as timid as a mouse, but he blamed others for standing up for him. This was really a weird jealousy. What, you really won't cry until you see the coffin? It's not easy for you small fries to make a living. I don't want to make things difficult for you. Hurry up and call Heavenly Venerate Leech. I only want to talk to him. I'm giving you a chance now. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Ling Xiao looked coldly at the surrounding martial artists. The strongest among them was actually at the peak of 4 symbols. It was that wretched old man from before. This fellow was actually Heavenly Venerate Leech's lackey. Kid, this old man still advises you to be obedient. Heavenly Venerate Leech won't treat you unfairly. That wretched old man said, You talk too much. Do you really want me to make a move? Ling Xiao was a little impatient. He originally didn't want to deal with these people. However, it seemed that if he didn't make a move now, these fellows wouldn't know how powerful he was and wouldn't do as he said. Brat, it seems like you're really courting death. The wretched old man had just joined Heavenly Venerate Leech's camp and definitely wanted to be the first to gain merit. Therefore, he didn't wait for the others to make a move and directly pounced on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao didn't make a move at all. A plum blossom imprinted on that wretched old man's shoulder. That old man was sent flying on the spot. Even his shoulder blade was penetrated. It was Cold Plum's move. Stinking woman, you dare to hurt me? I'll definitely strip you of your clothes and let all the slaves here enjoy you to their heart's content. The wretched old man roared. Chapter 946. This old man will definitely let you have a good time. There are many slaves in this second circle. I reckon they are all drooling over a delicate little beauty like you. The wretched old man was so angry that he started spouting nonsense. However, he didn't expect his words to offend Cold Plum. Cold Plum originally didn't want to kill him, but at that moment, a black shadow appeared and the old man's head fell from his neck. What an idiot. I spared your life, and you still dare to provoke me. Can't you tell who's stronger and who's weaker? Ling Xiao looked at the wretched old man's corpse and shook his head. There were many smart people these days, but there were also many people like him who liked to court death. So powerful. This lady looks so cold, but I didn't expect her strength to be so terrifying. These bastard subordinates of Emperor Leech have kicked an iron plate today. Kill them. Those who were secretly watching the show were actually holding back their anger. They really hated Emperor Leech and his subordinates. They just didn't have the guts to make a move. How dare they kill our people? Everyone attack together and get rid of these two. Otherwise, our Emperor Leech will have no place to put his face, shouted one of Emperor Leech's subordinates. Attack! There's only two of them. There's nothing special about them. Kill them. Perhaps they were used to being arrogant, or perhaps it was because they weren't weak themselves. After all, to become Emperor Leech's subordinate, one had to be at least a triple talent genius. Not to mention that there were a few four symbols heaven cultivators among them. With dozens of people attacking together, they believed that they should be able to take down Ling Xiao and Cold Plum. Therefore, there was nothing to be afraid of. Cold Plum, don't make a move first. Leave it to me. I haven't had the time to try out the unique skill I just learned. In the past 20 days, Ling Xiao's cultivation had advanced to the triple talent heaven early stage. More importantly, his light profound and shadow profound had both reached the third step and obtained new abilities. The first step was defense. The second step was single target attacks. The third step was group attacks. Facing dozens of powerful opponents, Ling Xiao smiled as the golden crow sword appeared in his hand. The third ultimate move of the Profound of Light was related to the golden crow sword. Golden Crow, Rising Sun. Ling Xiao raised the golden crow, sword high up in the air. Suddenly, the sword light transformed into a huge golden crow and swooped down on the crowd. It was as if the golden crow had come to life. It blossomed with dazzling light, emitted blazing heat, and released a terrifying sword light. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people rushed over. Dozens of people vomited blood and flew back, falling to the ground and unable to move. This move is not bad. It's similar to the Rising Sun sword light, but its power and effect are much stronger. Not bad. Ling Xiao acted as if he was trying out a move. He simply did not look at those who were sent flying. Instead, he held the sword in his hand and muttered to himself. He discovered a phenomenon. Although he hadn't awakened a profound meaning, and the moves produced were basically fixed, he could still interfere and influence them to make these moves more suitable for him. Go to hell! Just as Ling Xiao was thinking about how to modify his ultimate move, the leader suddenly pounced on him from the side. The sharp blade in his hand directly pierced toward the back of Ling Xiao's heart. This person's cultivation was relatively strong and had reached the late stage of the four symbols celestial realm. He was only slightly weaker than the wretched old man and Shimin Bo from before. Master, be careful! Cold Plum wanted to go forward and stop him. After all, the opponent's attack was too sudden and very fast. He was already close to Ling Xiao. Don't worry. He really shouldn't have attacked me at this time because I still have a move that I haven't tried yet. Ling Xiao smiled and casually swung his sword. No one saw anything appear. Suddenly, the leader who was pouncing over was bitten in half by something in midair. This frightening scene left everyone dumbfounded. Void Shadow Crocodile. What an appropriate name for the move. Ling Xiao nodded. The moves of the shadow profound meaning had always been very hidden. It was no wonder that others couldn't discover it. Look, what's that? Finally, someone noticed something strange. It looks like the shadow of a crocodile, but I don't see a crocodile. And why does this crocodile's shadow seem to have wings? I just saw it. I saw it. The crocodile's shadow bit that guy's shadow in half, and then that guy died. His body was broken. A cultivator sat on the ground in horror and shouted loudly. Bullsh**T. How can a bitten shadow hurt the main body? Don't doubt me. What I said is true. I saw it with my own eyes. That person was indeed right. The most terrifying thing about the void shadow crocodile was that it didn't attack the opponent's body, but the opponent's shadow. Any part of the shadow that was attacked would hurt the main body. Even a cultivator with a higher cultivation base than Ling Xiao would find it very difficult to deal with this kind of hidden and special attack. Ling Xiao naturally wouldn't explain anything. He glanced at Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinates, who were so frightened that their legs turned to jelly. Go and get your Heavenly Venerate Leech to see me now. Don't think that I can't kill you. I just don't want to. You will definitely regret it, kid. You will die a horrible death after offending Heavenly Venerate Leech. There were still a few unyielding people among Heavenly Venerate Leech's subordinates. Before they left, they even threatened Ling Xiao. I've heard a lot of nonsense like this. However, I'm afraid that your leader doesn't have the ability to do so. Even though Ling Xiao was only at the early stage of the 3 talents heaven stage, it was still very easy for him to deal with ordinary martialists from the Avalon of 5 elements. Perhaps it would be a little difficult to face the Blood Skull. After all, the Blood Skull was also a genius. Therefore, Ling Xiao wanted to increase his strength before returning to the Imperial City. Fighting with experts and snatching Heaven Essence crystals was the best way to do so. Heavenly Venerate Leech wasn't a good person anyway. Therefore, he didn't feel the slightest bit of psychological pressure when doing this. Empyrean Leech's subordinates left one after another, heading towards the place where Empyrean Leech was cultivating. They were both slaves and lived in caves. However, Empyrean Leech's cave was decorated to look like a magnificent palace. There were even a few female attendants accompanying him, all of them wearing very revealing clothes. Having his mood disturbed, Empyrean Leech seemed to be very unhappy. What's going on? Why are all of you acting like this? Could it be that they have encountered a powerful resistance? As the boss of this place, it was normal to encounter resistance. Heavenly Venerate Leech had encountered similar situations in the past. His method was to thoroughly kill those who dared to resist him, even though Pipa Island didn't like dead people. However, killing 1 or 2 people was not a problem. If Piping Island wanted to rely on him to manage these slaves, they had to give him some face. Chapter 947. Reporting to the Heavenly Venerable, this fellow is a little difficult to deal with. Not only did he kill our leader, but he also killed the old man who just surrendered. He said that he wants you to go over and give him a reply. He doesn't respect you at all. The subordinates' words weren't exaggerated. After all, the meaning was similar to what Ling Xiao had said. Bastard! Heavenly Venerate Leech smashed the tea table in front of him and roared furiously, I've been in circle number 2 for more than 10 years. I've seen many idiots who wanted to resist, but none of them had a good ending. Today, I'd like to see where this kid got the guts to provoke me. Heavenly Venerable, you will definitely succeed. That fellow is merely at the early heaven stage. He is no match for you. The subordinates tried their best to curry favor. Bring me over. Don't let that fellow escape. Yes. Although Circle 2 occupied a large area, Heavenly Venerable Leech was able to reach it in an instant with his Avalon of 5 elements cultivation. If not for his subordinates leading the way, he might have reached even faster. Heavenly Venerable Leech was very thin, as if his entire body had been hollowed out. There were many moles on his face, making him look very ugly. However, the sinister aura that he released caused all the surrounding martial artists to be endlessly alarmed. That idiot Ling Xiao actually dared to provoke Heavenly Venerable Leech. Now that you are here, I want to see how long he can be smug for. Shimin Bo naturally felt very uncomfortable when he saw Ling Xiao showing off his might. Now that Heavenly Venerable Leech had arrived, he really wished that Heavenly Venerable Leech could slap Ling Xiao to death. In that case, he could stand there and mock him. Perhaps Lang Mei would also become his woman at that time. That young man is in danger. Although he helped us vent our anger, his cultivation is still too weak. Heavenly Venerable Leech has just broken through to the Avalon of 5 elements and is looking for someone to cause trouble for. Isn't he sending himself to his doorstep? Yeah, that young man's cultivation seems to be at the early heaven stage. This is bad. Empyrean Leech is completely different from those good-for-nothings from before. Sigh, I guess he's a young master from some big faction outside. Relying on his reputation as a genius, he's always high and mighty, so he's unwilling to endure the humiliation here. Now it's troublesome. A bad life is better than a good death. Why must you seek death? The other martial artists weren't very optimistic about Ling Xiao either. Although they weren't as bad as Shimin Bo, they didn't have much confidence in Ling Xiao. Brat, where are you from? Tell me your name. If I know who you are, I can spare your life. Heavenly Venerate Leech wanted to make a move as soon as he arrived, but he suddenly saw Cold Plum. Although Cold Plum had obviously suppressed her cultivation, ordinary concealment would not escape the eyes of those with good eyesight. Empyrean Leech clearly sensed that Cold Plum's strength was not inferior to his. Therefore, he did not dare to attack directly. Instead, he probed. Nameless Ling Xiao, a disciple of a small sect on the heavenly dragon continent. You must be Empyrean Leech, right? Ling Xiao said coolly. Humph! Since you know this Empyrean's great name, then you should understand what the outcome of offending this Empyrean is, right? Empyrean Leech gave a cold snort and said, I'll give you a chance. Pledge allegiance to this Empyrean right now, and you can avoid death. Perhaps in this Empyrean's view, if Ling Xiao became his subordinate, then that woman beside Ling Xiao naturally became his subordinate too. This way, his strength could be said to have increased greatly. Ling Xiao shook his head lightly and said, You're not worthy of making me your subordinate yet. Insolence. Behind Empyrean Leech, countless subordinates cursed Ling Xiao loudly. In their hearts, Empyrean Leech's dignity was not to be provoked. Empyrean, please give this subordinate a chance to exterminate this brat and vent your anger for you. The one snuggling up beside Empyrean Leech was an enchanting woman. Her clothes were thin and seductive to the bone, but her cultivation was not weak either. Peak 4 symbols heavenly realm cultivation. This strength was already as powerful as Shimin Bo. Right, baby, you teach this brat a lesson for this Empyrean. Empyrean Leech really did not have much interest in Ling Xiao. What he cared more about was Cold Plum instead. The reason why he did not make a move was also to guard against Cold Plum. In his view, a mere 3 talents heaven initial stage cultivation martial artist could not gain any advantage at all when facing a peak 4 symbols heavenly realm martial artist. He was absolutely bound to lose without a doubt. This servant obeys your orders. That woman smiled slightly, a fox appearing behind her. Indeed a fox spirit. Ling Xiao could not help secretly sighing. What this woman possessed was not a fox martial soul, but a fox spirit martial soul. Although she was just a nameless fox spirit, she absorbed this martial soul's seductive characteristics to the fullest. Little big brother, this servant will be very gentle. You mustn't be afraid of pain. The fox spirit let out a coquettish laugh, making many martial artists' bones almost turn soft. Shimin Bo even drooled when he saw. At the side, Kai Weiwei shook her head repeatedly. Initially, she revered and worshipped Shimin Bo, but now, she looked down on this man more and more. She was really like a flying sword that experienced a rapid decline from the highest to the lowest. Now that Shimin Bo was staring at that coquettish fox spirit like a pig, she actually did not feel angry. Instead, she felt helpless and sorrowful. How could she fall in love with such a man? She was too blind. You better not make a move. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen. Ling Xiao looked at the fox spirit indifferently and said with a smile, Hee hee, this servant is not scared. This servant has once defeated an initial stage martial artist of the Avalon of 5 elements. Little big brother, you are simply not enough. The fox spirit smiled coquettishly, but her eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Is that so? Then you can try. Ling Xiao smiled slightly. He could even imagine how exactly this woman defeated the martial artist of the Avalon of 5 elements. This woman's martial soul probably had an extremely powerful seductive effect. Martial artists with insufficient soul power would really have to admit defeat in front of her. But would he? In terms of soul power, he believed that no one in the celestial realm could match up to him. Why is this guy so calm? What exactly is he relying on? The fox spirit was somewhat puzzled. Ling Xiao was obviously only at the initial stage of the heaven realm, but he was completely fearless in front of her. It was really strange. No matter what you rely on, it is useless in front of me. The fox spirit snorted coldly, thinking that Ling Xiao's performance was just deliberately mystifying to make her suspicious. Heart of charm. The martial soul behind her flickered with a strange red light. The fox spirit threw a flying kiss at Ling Xiao. A red heart formed by soul power and heavenly elemental energy actually appeared and flew towards Ling Xiao. She is indeed good at soul attacks. Ling Xiao secretly nodded and suddenly opened his eye of the world. Under the alternating night and day, fear descended upon this world. Chapter 948. The strange black and white lights brought immense mental pressure to the fox spirit. The fox spirit actually screamed and fainted on the spot. She can't even withstand a single blow. Ling Xiao sneered disdainfully. He had defeated his opponent so easily just by relying on the pressure of the mountain river will. This battle was a little too easy. How did she lose? The onlookers couldn't understand the situation at all. It was clearly the fox spirit attacking Ling Xiao. Why was it the fox spirit screaming and fainting as if she had lost control? What's going on? Not to mention the onlookers. Even Heavenly Venerate Leech didn't understand what was going on. Even if he was caught off guard, he would still fall for this vixen's trick. Although he wouldn't lose, it shouldn't be so easy to defeat this woman. Could it be a soul secret technique? Empyrean Leech was experienced and knowledgeable. He instantly thought that Ling Xiao might have a soul secret technique stronger than the fox spirits. In terms of soul force, once it was restrained, it would be easy to lose. It wasn't like internal force. Even if one's internal force was less than the opponent's, they wouldn't lose instantly. There would always be a chance to escape or turn the tables. Thinking of this, Empyrean Leech put on a strange collar. Kid, I didn't expect you to be a soul force expert. No wonder you could defeat my subordinate so easily. However, your good days are coming to an end. The collar he wore was specifically used to resist soul force. Although it couldn't completely block it, it had no problem weakening the power of soul force. The way he saw it, Ling Xiao's strength was nothing more than his soul force. As long as he could solve this problem, defeating Ling Xiao would be as easy as flipping his hand. Too much nonsense. Ling Xiao said indifferently, If you don't make a move, I'll make a move first. You're courting death. Empyrean Leech coldly snorted and pounced towards Ling Xiao. He was actually wearing strange gloves on his hands. Those gloves were neither gold nor silver. They were a heart-palpitating, blood-red color. They looked very terrifying. Of course, what was even more terrifying was that Empyrean Leech's grab was like an eagle spreading its wings and pouncing on its prey. It gave off a strong sense of threat. Cold Plum, stand to the side and don't do anything. Watch out for those bastard sneak attacks. Leave this guy to me. Ling Xiao's next opponent, Bloodskull, was also at the early stage of the Avalon of 5 elements. He was exactly the same as Celestial Master Leech. Therefore, he wanted to practice on Empyrean Leech and see what kind of standard this early stage practitioner of the Avalon of 5 elements had. Bang! The crimson sun all tore through the air and collided with heavenly venerate Leech's bloody claw in midair. The resulting violent air currents blew the nearby rocks apart. What? He had actually blocked it. The spectators gulped, appearing extremely nervous. They originally thought that Ling Xiao didn't have the slightest bit of hope against Empyrean Leech. But now it seemed like they had underestimated this human youth. He had easily intercepted Heavenly Venerate Leech's attack. Damn it! How can he be so strong? Shiminbo gnashed his teeth in anger. He had originally wanted to see Ling Xiao make a fool of himself, but instead he saw Ling Xiao displaying his invincible might. This was definitely not a scene he wanted to see. To him, this was even more unbearable than eating a needle. Kid, you have some skills, but that was just a test. Let's see if you can still block my next attack. Empyrean Leech was also extremely surprised. In his anger, the bloody claw shadows began to attack Ling Xiao repeatedly. Moreover, each attack was stronger and more ruthless than the last. It was as if countless bloody claws had condensed in the air. He didn't believe that a mere early-stage practitioner of the three-talent stage could block so many of his attacks. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of energy colliding rang out continuously. Deep pits continuously appeared on the ground due to the explosions. However, Empyrean Leech was actually unable to get within 3 meters of Ling Xiao. Every time, the crimson sun all would block it. Every time, it would return without any success. Humph, really unworthy of the name. Just the likes of you are also fit to be this second circle's boss? Done playing, it's my turn to take action. Ling Xiao gave a cold snort, both hands swinging out at the same time. The crimson sun all and dark shadow all shot towards Empyrean Leech at the same time. So what if you take action? This Empyrean can't do anything to you. You can't do anything to this Empyrean either. Empyrean Leech could only see the crimson sun all's existence, but could not see the dark shadow all. Therefore, he felt that Ling Xiao could not hurt him. He waved his sharp, bloody claws confidently and smashed towards that crimson sun all. The repeated attacks previously already gave him an understanding of this crimson sun all. He had to block it. Otherwise, this crimson sun all could absolutely break through his protective heavenly essence energy and then pierce through his body. Bang! A fierce collision sounded out once more. Empyrean Leech blocked the crimson sun all very easily. Ha 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 ha! Kid, the smug Empyrean Leech had yet to finish talking when his chest suddenly hurt. Lowering his head to look, he discovered that there was an additional bloody fist-sized hole in his chest. This is impossible. He did not understand. He had clearly blocked the crimson sun all's attack. How could he still be injured? Nothing is impossible. People tend to only pay attention to what's in front of them, but they forget that dangerous things are often hidden in unseen places. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, appearing very calm. However, he was very shocked in his heart. After combining light and shadow profound meanings, it was truly too terrifying. This was not only reflected in power, but it could also catch the enemy off guard. I didn't expect that Empyrean Leech would actually be defeated. Just where did this kid come from? Shou, lower your voice. Don't let him hear you. Those who dare to attack Empyrean Leech are definitely not ordinary characters. Don't get targeted by him. The second circle's martial artists had seen many people provoking Empyrean Leech. Some of them had even done so before. However, without exception, all of them ended in defeat. Some of them died horrible deaths. Some fell under Empyrean Leech's hands obediently. But Ling Xiao's appearance shattered Empyrean Leech's undefeatable legend, thoroughly changing the second circle's situation. Shimin Bo was already kneeling on the ground. He felt that his mouth was very parched. Facing Empyrean Leech, he and Ling Xiao chose two completely different ways of doing things. He groveled and groveled, paying heaven essence crystals. But Ling Xiao defeated Empyrean Leech and became the new boss of the second circle. This up and down simply made him feel heart-burning jealousy and unwillingness. The second circle situation is really going to change. I just don't know what this youth will do after defeating Empyrean Leech. Will he become even worse, like Empyrean Leech? Although the martial artists saw that Empyrean Leech was defeated, they were still apprehensive in their hearts. They were not clear what kind of person Ling Xiao was. Now, hand over all of your storage rings to me, and I can spare you all from death. After killing Empyrean Leech, Ling Xiao did not forget about the Heaven Essence crystals on their bodies. Low-grade Heaven Essence crystals were no longer as effective to him as before. However, quantity could still make up for quality. Chapter 949. Although the low-grade Heaven Essence crystal wasn't very effective now, the quantity could still make up for the quality. If 100 wasn't enough, then 1,000, 10,000. Don't go overboard. Even if you defeated Empyrean Leech, you haven't obtained the administrator's approval. You're still not the boss here. We have no reason to listen to you. Empyrean Leech's subordinates were still stubbornly resisting. They were huddled together, appearing to be tough on the outside but weak on the inside. If you want to die, you can insist on not giving it to me. Anyway, it won't take me too long to kill trash like you. Ling Xiao said coldly, Master, leave the matter of killing them to me, so as not to dirty your hands. Cold Plum said with a smile, You guys are crazy. If you kill so many people at once, Piping Island won't let you off. Empyrean Leech's subordinates shouted, Is that so? Then I'd like to give it a try. Ling Xiao wanted to start a riot here. Why would he care about Piping Island's wrath? What a joke. After saying that, Ling Xiao pointed his finger, and all of Empyrean Leech's subordinates fell to the ground. These guys ate people without spitting out the bones. They should have died long ago. Ling Xiao wanted to leave them a way out so that they could help resist Piping Island. But now, it seemed that leaving these fellows alive would cause endless trouble. If they were to turn on him during the riot, it would be troublesome. Cold Plum, collect all the storage rings. Ling Xiao said. Cold Plum nodded and collected the storage rings of Empyrean Leech's subordinates, as well as Empyrean Leech himself. Young Master, it's very troublesome to monopolize the Heaven Essence crystal. You killed Empyrean Leech. The administrator might be angry, but he wants to use you, so he won't do anything. But if you want the Heaven Essence crystal, then it's different. An old man walked out from the crowd and said with a trembling voice, Do you guys plan to live in fear and muddle-headedness for the rest of your lives? To be exploited like livestock? Ling Xiao asked, We want to resist, but it's useless. Empyrean Leech is just the slave boss of the second circle. It's nothing to kill him. The key is Piping Island's administrator. The old man said while shaking his head. So what? Ling Xiao asked. So what? The old man was stunned. Every grievance has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Do you think I'm doing this just to kill Empyrean Leech? What a joke! All of you, think about it carefully. If you are willing to go against me, be prepared. I will go to all the human circles in this underground factory. I will kill the lackeys of Piping Island first, and then Piping Island will be the last. Ling Xiao wasn't afraid, because even if no one told on him, all of his actions were probably under the surveillance of Piping Island. It was impossible for him to be completely undiscovered. He wanted Piping Island to treat him as an arrogant madman. It was best if they ignored him. Piping Island nurtured these people to be the boss of their circle. They were not useless. They definitely hoped that these people would be able to deal with Ling Xiao. As the saying goes, cook according to the ingredients. How could Piping Island place a mere 3 talents early-stage martial artist in their eyes? After saying that, Ling Xiao no longer paid attention to those martial artists. He and Cold Plum began to count the Heaven Essence crystals. The harvest this time could be said to be bountiful. Even for a super genius like Ling Xiao, he could at most produce 30 pieces of low-grade heaven essence crystal stones in a month too. But Empyrean Leech and his subordinates had more than 1,000 heaven essence crystals. According to the exchange rate of 100,000 low-grade spirit stones for one low-grade heaven essence crystal, more than 1,000 heaven essence crystals would be more than 100 million low-grade spirit stones. Looking at Ling Xiao counting the heaven essence crystals, Shimin Bo's eyes turned red. It was a red of jealousy and anger. He really wanted to report to Piping Island's administrator and bring Ling Xiao to justice, but he didn't dare to move. Ling Xiao's terrifying strength almost scared him out of his wits. The Avalon of 5 elements Empyrean, Leech, was actually not worth mentioning in front of Ling Xiao. He was easily defeated. Under such circumstances, if Shimin Bo cherished his life, he definitely wouldn't dare to rashly offend Ling Xiao. These 1,000 pieces of low-grade heaven essence crystals that Ling Xiao obtained were accumulated by Empyrean Leech after exploiting them for over a decade. After all, the strongest person in circle number 2 was Empyrean Leech himself. The rest were 4 symbols, Empyrean martial artists, and below. In other words, one person could produce 4 low-grade heaven essence crystals in a month at most. 90% of these heaven essence crystals had to be handed over to Piping Island. Empyrean Leech could only keep 10%, which was actually not much. In addition, he had used up quite a lot of it for his cultivation. After more than 10 years of accumulation, he only had this little bit. In the end, because he was blind, it was all taken away by Ling Xiao. More than 1,000 pieces is still too little. After returning to the cave, Ling Xiao said, "Still too little?" Cold Plum was stunned. "That's right, it's still too little. Since we're going to start a riot here, we might as well go all the way and rob the bosses of the other circles as well. After all, those guys have ill-gotten gains in their hands." Ling Xiao said, "Agreed. But will Piping Island find trouble with us?" Cold Plum frowned and asked, "It shouldn't be for the time being. I just planted the seeds of rebellion in those slaves, but I didn't incite them. Piping Island doesn't have the time." Ling Xiao shook his head and said, "So this is the best time. We have to finish what we need to do before Piping Island makes a move. This servant will listen to Master." Cold Plum felt a little excited. Her master did things without following the rules. Piping Island's underground factory had existed for so many years, but there had never been anyone who dared to challenge the bosses of all the circles. At most, they would defeat the bosses of their own circles and replace them. More importantly, her master seemed to really want to destroy this place. She was originally a slave. She had the most direct experience of the pain of being a slave. Ling Xiao's way of doing things moved her and made her even more willing to serve. "Before that, I need to continue increasing my strength." Ling Xiao was very clear that defeating Celestial Master Leech was not a big deal. Since he had obtained so many sky origin crystals, he would just use them. Anyway, it was only the 22nd, and there were still 9 days to the end of the month. He planned to use 3 days to cultivate. This time, he would focus on cultivation. 3 days later, Ling Xiao used more than 1,000 sky origin crystals and the Heaven's Spirit elixir. His cultivation broke through to the pinnacle of 3 talents. "It's time." Ling Xiao smiled slightly. He could feel the power in his body gushing out continuously. He really wanted to find someone to fight now. Although Cold Plum's cultivation did not break through, her cultivation in the early stage of the Avalon of 5 elements had stabilized.